three.
Hey. All right. Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday, September 2nd. This is the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical. We're coming to you live from the world-famous University of Louisville College of Business Studios here in the heart of victorious Louisville, Kentucky. Cards fans, you can take your career to new heights with an MBA from the University of Louisville. The full-time MBA is an innovative 12-month program that accelerates your career trajectory with convenient in-person evening classes. Competitive 11-month paid internship opportunities provide you with valuable industry experience. It's the MBA that pays. Get started today, and you can earn your degree in just 1 year. The first step is visiting business.louisville.edu today. We're on the air from 2:32 until 5:30 here on 1450 AM, 96.1 FM, streaming across the planet Earth and potentially beyond. You know us better as the Big X. Mike Rutherford, Roman Kelly. Victory Tuesday here, the first victory show of the season. Got a little bit delayed because we had a holiday yesterday, but happy to be here with you on a Tuesday as we kick off the first in-season episode of the Mike Rutherford Show. We'll recap Louisville's triumphant victory over Eastern Kentucky on Saturday. We'll talk about some of the other things that happened across the landscape of college sports. We'll get you, we're not going to start turning our attention to JMU just yet, although it is a short week, so we have less time to celebrate before we start preparing for the Dukes coming to town on Friday. We'll get with you on the Gameday Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450 as well. It's a big day for the show, not just because we're now officially in the 2025 Louisville football season, not just because we're celebrating a victory to kick off said season, but because for the second 2 hours today, 3:30 to 5:30, we're on TV. We're TV stars. WBNA Channel 21 as the television coverage. No, I have no idea how this is going to go. No idea how it's going to go. I'm rocking an Andy's TV shirt to celebrate. Roman's got the Toy Tiger Cardinal Bird shirt on today. He's raring to go. He's producing the absolute hell out of the show. As always, give him a follow on Twitter, @RomyBean. Roman Kelly, how are we, buddy?
Doing great, Mike. Excited to be in. Excited to talk victorious Louisville Cardinals talk with you.
Damn right.
Got some news regarding the ACL, so program note for us technically as of next week. Got the surgery on the schedule, so excited to know what's happening now with that and be able to conclude. You can now plan things and know that what life's going to look like for me. So that feels good. Got my first par this weekend.
Okay. First of all, can you turn me up a little bit? I'm a little bit. I just want to hear perfect. We have to talk about this before we get into football. So you played golf twice this weekend.
Yes.
I'm very proud of you. You broke 60 in one round. You recorded a par on the other. You sent me the video. The dad in me comes out. I don't love that you're playing golf on this ACL. This is exactly what ACL experts told you not to do at this point in time.
It is.
And you're still doing
it. Yes. I don't have much to say there other than I haven't experienced any pain.
They told you weren't going to. They told you at this point you were going to want to get out there and do stuff.
Well, that's post-op. They mean post-op.
They don't mean post-op.
They mean 3 months in, you're going to start feeling good, and you're going to think you can do stuff. Before the surgery, I can't really make anything worse.
I'm looking out for your future, young man.
I won't be golfing in the first 3 or 4 or 5 months of my rehab and recovery.
Right. I've given my dad spiel. Now, the good news is broke 60 on 1-9 and made a par on the other 9. You're feeling good.
Feeling great. But it's all going to, I'm going to have to basically relearn how to swing the club.
You're going to lose that muscle memory.
Yeah. It's tough. But it feels good to know that I can, get out there a little bit. I obviously have to take it easy on my drives. I can't fully torque and go at it how I want. And I do think that that's kind of helping me. They're slicing right heavy because I'm doing something different, right? I'm trying to not contort as hard as I normally do. But I also
to be fair, you were doing that before you tore your ACL.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all right.
So now maybe just keeping him, not from going as far and crazy as much.
You got to get those hips through.
Exactly. But I got to scramble this weekend as well.
I know. I hate that I can't play.
I wish you could.
I'm bitter about it.
Maybe something will change before then.
I would love to tell my 5-year-old daughter, sorry, I'm not going to be there as you turn 6. But unfortunately, I would lose the dad card if that were the case. So we got to do that. Had a fantastic weekend. We celebrated the birthday Friday night. Went to Molly Malone's. Mary organized. She called a bunch of friends. I did love
Should have came out, Mike.
Well, you were like, we may be out and about. I may drop by. Like, what time? I was like, we'll probably be leaving like 10:30. We're old. And sure enough, I texted you. So Ali Khalifa, as we're getting ready to leave, Ali Khalifa shows up. He's got a couple ladies with him. And my buddy's like, is that Ali Khalifa? I was like, yeah, that's definitely. So technically, Ali Khalifa at my birthday party Friday night. And I texted you, and you're like, man, we were just getting ready to stop by. I was like, well, you shouldn't, because we're literally leaving right now. The only reason why people didn't leave at 10 o'clock was because it took our waitress. She could not figure out any of the bills, and it took like an hour to get done. So that was the only reason. But it was a very fun night. Had a good time. Got to see some friends. Got out and about. The nostalgia of being out there at Old Molly's on Bardstown Road was fantastic as well. That was lovely. Had kid's birthday party over the weekend. I stained a deck yesterday, which I've got to go home and finish today. And then in between all of that good stuff, football. Felt fantastic. Just to be here and just to be talking about it. We'll dive right into it today. Just because it's in season. This is what we need to get to. One of my buddies just texted me and said, ask Roman about Suarez spitting on a Seattle staff member.
No. Did that happen?
Apparently. That's your boy. That's your guy. That's your guy. You love Luis Suarez.
What are you doing at your age of what is probably like 37 or 38?
He's got mouth issues, Roman.
You've moved on to the MLS. Like, you know the tier of soccer you're playing in doesn't give you the same rep and standing among players in the world.
Biting and spitting on everybody.
This should be like your victory lap mentality of soccer. Like, you've made it. You're making just as much money as you did back in the day, and you're having to do less. Why are you spitting on people?
Yeah, well, he is. Anyway, let's dive right into it. Louisville on Saturday. I don't know what other phrase you can use. I know it's generic. I know but it felt very much like a taking care of business, the song that we always play on the show, type afternoon. Louisville wins at 51-17, a score that not necessarily indicative of how dominant the performance was before the starters came out. It was 41-0 at one point late in the second quarter. It was 41-7 at halftime when most of the starters were retired for the day, including pretty much all of the important offensive starters. And then Louisville cruises to a 51-17 victory. Minimal damage when it came to injuries. A couple of guys did get a little bit dinged up that Jeff Brom talked about yesterday. Definitely some things that we will talk about when it comes to, I don't want to say like the downside of the performance, but there were some negatives that will be addressed that Brom himself talked about after the game. But for the most part, the good outweighed the bad. It felt, I don't know how you feel, Roman, but it was one of those performances where I was like, it didn't really change anything for me. I didn't feel, and it was going to be tough for a game against EKU, I think, to change anybody's opinion in the positive. You know, if you went into the season believing that Louisville was going to win 8 games, it was going to be very difficult for them to do anything on Saturday that got you to a point where you're like, all right, it's a 10-win team. I've seen it now. They beat EKU 98-0. Now I feel better. You always have more to lose than you have to gain in these types of games. And for the most part, I feel like whatever your preseason expectation for this team was, you're probably still right where you were this time a week ago. I don't want to speak for everybody, but that's where I am. That's what you expected to see from this team, and I still feel like they're 9-3, 8-4, somewhere in that realm. Would love to see some things this week that could get me to 10-2. Before we get into some of the individual stuff from this game, Roman, does that fly with you? Are you still basically where you were with this team before the game kicked off on Saturday?
Yeah, pretty much fully. I mean, actually, I have a positive, Mike. I do have a positive takeaway that has a raised expectation. I think the overall playmaking that I know we'll be able to achieve from the athletes we have that can be combined with Jeff's creativity, that should be on display all season long. You've got a bunch of different guys you can use. I think just about everybody you would want showcase something out there in that game to where when the playbook starts getting in depth and where we want it to be, I think these athletes should be making some big plays, Mike. Was something I wasn't sure outside of the names that we knew were capable of doing it, but now I feel like I feel that way about a handful of names. Outside of that, though, I'm right there with you. Quite literally nothing. I'm still exactly where I was before.
Yeah, the score is It is what it is. Technically Louisville didn't cover the game, didn't cover the spread like they did the past 2 years. But when you go back and you look at first of all, EKU they're an upgrade from Murray State and Austin Peay. Those teams have been kind of down in the dumps in the FCS for the last few years. EKU's coming off an FCS playoff bid, so you would expect the score to be a little bit closer. But also, when you go back and think about those Austin Peay and Murray State games, there were times in the second half when Louisville had rested its starters and Murray was driving or Austin Peay was driving, and they missed a field goal or had a turnover or whatever, and that's what goes into those scores. Louisville, you look back and it's 7 of those points are coming off a pick six. The other 10 are coming against full-on backups. I don't get too caught up in the score, at least after the starters were benched. The thing that stood out to me that I think you can translate to the rest of the season is Louisville's speed. You definitely should look faster than EKU, but my goodness, when you look at Isaac Brown, when you look at Colin Lacey, when you look at some of the other guys that we threw out there, and just how different they were than not just the EKU players, but kind of their own teammates as well at times. Louisville speed's going to be a problem. We're back to, I don't want to say Speed City, because that was the branding term that we used before the 2018 season when we went 2-10. But we've definitely got some dudes out there that I think are going to be electric, and I expect this offense to put up some solid numbers. Let's start with, I think, the area that people were the most intrigued by coming into this game, which is the quarterback position with Miller Moss taking over in his first season at Louisville. He goes out there. Like I said, the numbers are the numbers, but the numbers were solid for the most part. He goes out there 23 of 35. That's not right. It was 15 of 23, 238, one touchdown passing, one touchdown rushing, 2 interceptions, one definitely his fault, 2 we can argue about. But overall, I thought it was a good performance for Miller Moss. He did some things that I really liked. He came out, he executed and showcased a complete knowledge of the limited playbook that Jeff Brom was going to show in this game. He made quick and accurate decisions. He, on a couple of occasions, made nice downfield throws. The 3rd and 19 strike over the middle, I thought, was an especially beautiful pass. I thought the touchdown throw to Duke Watson was great as well. I had a couple of underthrows on plays where even when the ball was completed, you would have liked to have seen hit the guy in stride. Could have been an even bigger play. But for the most part, I thought Miller Moss checked most of the boxes that we needed him to check. He also, if you're looking at Pro Football Focus, I know those grades, people take them for what they're worth. He was the 5th highest graded quarterback of all Power 4 conference quarterbacks in week 1 with a 92.6. Only the kid from Cal, Arkansas, Duke, Darren Mensah, and West Virginia were graded higher. So they said, great overall first performance from Miller Moss. Granted, again, moving forward, he's going to have less time to throw. He's going to have guys that are probably less open. But I thought that like with the overall performance by the team, the good far outweighed the bad when it came to the quarterback play on Saturday. Roman, what say you?
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I think, like you just said, he never showed that he was unsure about where he needed to be or where he needed to throw the ball. I felt like he maneuvered well in the pocket. That was one thing I was kind of going to be questioning of. Is he going to be able to stay in the pocket and be able to give himself an extra second or two to make those throws that he needs to make if it isn't a perfect pocket upon the snap? I thought, like you said, though, some of those throws, they've got to be on target. They've got to be perfect when the defender isn't on the receiver. You put it in his stride, let him get extra yards after the catch. On some of those throws, I felt like he just wasn't perfect when he could have been. And then, like you just said, on the downfield throws, I felt like he showcased he had it. When he knows where the receiver's supposed to be and the receiver gets his man beat, he saw it early. He made the throws pretty anticipated. I felt like the second interception was a dime from Miller Moss. That just the safety made a better play, unfortunately, and then the ball had one of the most unfortunate, unlucky things that can happen. It doesn't touch the ground, bounces back up, hits the receiver's leg, and falls right to the cornerback's hands. That's as unlucky as it can get. But I thought the pass to Meeks there was great. I feel like Meeks has to keep a hold of that, if I'm being honest. But outside of that, Mike, I mean, he found every receiver. He had like 7 different targets to different seven different receivers had receptions within like halfway through the first quarter or something pretty wild like that. Me and Jacob Lane had noticed as we were watching up there in the booth. I loved it. I love what I saw from Miller Moss. I also thought that there's a couple throws that he kind of forced. The one to Meeks on the right side, the two defenders knew that that's where he was going. He didn't even give Meeks really a chance there. Just not really the greatest pass. But outside of those couple of passes, I felt like he played pretty well, and the speed was definitely on display. I don't know if it's going to get talked about much. I haven't done a whole lot of listening and stuff to others, but Keyjuan Brown being your third back and being your that guy that comes in. I mean, he was in a lot.
Yeah, we'll get to the running backs. We'll get there.
The speed was just definitely on display.
For sure. The quarterback play, though, one thing that I really, really did like as far as bringing a new quarterback into the fold for a third consecutive year, the penalties we'll also talk about. We've got to learn. The wide receivers in particular are going to have to learn how to block without holding. That was a consistent issue on Saturday. The other thing that I did like, no procedure penalties. There was no issues with Miller Moss and his cadence. It was mostly clean as far as the snaps were concerned, as far as the Miller showcasing a complete grasp of the offense. And again, we showed, I think, a very limited amount of Jeff Brom's playbook on Saturday, which was by design. The second interception, I'm going to disagree with you slightly. The first interception is obviously on Moss, but it's also one of those deals where if he makes an even worse pass, where it's 4 inches higher, it's just an incompletion. Nobody thinks about it. Okay, he threw a guy high. It happens. Whatever. It was just close enough to being a good pass that it was able to be tipped back in play and picked off and returned by a touchdown by the one guy that you didn't want to return for a touchdown in Vito Tisdale, who was talking all sorts of crap despite being down 35-0 3 minutes into the game. But the second interception, the one thing that I'll say, the pass was perfect. He put it presumably only where his guy could catch it. My one issue with it, and Keith Wynn said the exact same thing today in his film breakdown, he just stared down the receiver the entire time. He locked onto Meeks up the left sideline. They were going for a heavy hitter play, trying to do that 2-minute drill for a second time, and that allowed the safety to not honor the tight end who was going up the middle of the field and just cheat over. And his ability to get there right as the ball was getting there is the main reason why Meeks couldn't hang on to the ball and why you ended up having the crazy sequence of events where
why the safety had enough time in the first place to make the play.
And I would say, that's a good FCS safety. The kid who made that play is their best defensive player. Against better FBS safeties later this season, that ball's probably picked off. If you're going to stare down that dude and everybody on the field knows where the ball's going, that safety's going to cheat. He's going to be there a second earlier than the kid from EKU was, and he's going to intercept that pass. That's one of those little things that I think that's got to get figured out if Miller is going to be a guy.
He did that a few times.
He did. He locks onto guys a little bit. And against EKU, that's fine. But against James Madison on Friday, it's going to be less fine. And against better teams as we get into conference play, it's going to be even more of an issue. So that's one of those things that I looked at, and I was like, all right, we're holding you to a high standard. You're a Jeff Brom quarterback. Let's go. You can't do that. We got to start getting those eyes better if we're going to be putting up big-time numbers. At the end of the day, if you're asking me, and I feel like we have to keep reiterating this, I get that it's EKU, I get that it's one game. But I feel more of a belief that he's going to be somewhere in between Tyler Shuck and Jack Plummer, which is fine. I mean, Tyler Shuck's a high bar to clear from last year. Jack Plummer was not great, but again, he led us to 10 wins. If Miller Moss goes out there and he plays the way that we think he can, which is somewhere between Shuck and Plummer, we can be a 10-win football team. We can, if things go right, we can be an 11-win football team because the running backs are fantastic, the wide receivers are fantastic, and I do think the defense has a chance to be better than the national folks believe it's going to be this season. The thing that I had the big spiel, not a rant, big spiel, 3 weeks ago saying, I feel like we're all not appreciating Isaac Brown as much as we should. I feel like it's this thing we take for granted now, and people are suddenly saying, I think Duke Watson might be the better NFL back, or Watson. And I was like, I don't think we're fully appreciating the fact that we've got a guy who is arguably the best running back in the entire country. And you saw it again on Saturday. 6 carries, 3 of them go for explosive plays, 2 of them go for touchdowns. The kid is special, Roman. We need to appreciate each and every Saturday, Friday, Thursday, whatever, that we get an opportunity to watch number one play football, because that kid is as electric a running back as I think we've ever had. And I say that knowing full well that he's only played 14 games of his college career, but my goodness, when he hits the hole, and the vision looked fantastic, he made a couple of holes appear, but his ability, I said the same thing last year, his ability to cut without seeming to break stride or without seeming to lose any of his forward momentum, the only other player that I've ever seen in a Louisville uniform who's been able to do that is Lamar Jackson. And it's remarkable watching him get out. And when it's a foot race, like, he's gone. The second touchdown, the long one, when you saw that it was EKU safety and defense, they're taking kind of poor angles, and you're like, he's gone. Like, nobody's going to get to him. It is a absolute joy to watch that kid play football. You mentioned Duke Watson had a great catch. He only had 2 carries. Kejuan Brown looked fantastic in his limited ability out there.
He did it all, Mike.
Whew, these 3 running backs.
The touchdown reception to him didn't count.
Got called back, yeah.
But
looked great.
He made 2 guys miss there, kind of forced his own hold there to make a play happen there. The reception, he had a kickoff return late, or was it a punt? He had a return late in the game as well that he clearly could be the return guy if he needs to as well.
Sure.
Kejuan's a full-on athlete back there, Mike.
I think we had a talk about he returned the last kickoff for 65 yards. He was going for the cover. He knew that Jeff was going to take a knee when we got the ball. The only way that we scored and covered the spread was if he returned that kick for a touchdown. And Kejuan, he tried.
He wanted it.
For all you gamblers out there, he was doing his damnedest to make sure that you got paid on Saturday, and unfortunately just needed to break 1 or 2 more tackles. But yeah, we talked about the importance of bringing him back from Boise State a couple of weeks ago, and I think that we're going to see that more and more as the season goes on. We've got 3 really fantastic running backs, and I liked, a lot of what I saw from Sean Boykins, the former North Oldham star North Hardin star who we transformed into a running back this offseason. It looked weird watching him make those cuts and running the ball in the backfield with number 89 on his back, but he's got great speed. And
I wasn't mad at what I saw from Braxton Jennings
Jennings, he was a guy that got a lot of love during the fall as a guy that, was maybe going to step up and be that 4-string running back, and sure looked that way on Saturday. Real quickly, we'll talk more about the negatives after the break, but defensively, the guy that popped is the same guy for everybody. Cleve Lubin's a problem, man.
He is.
Like that's one of those deals where it doesn't matter if you're playing against EKU. That jump off the line, his ability to be in the backfield in the snap of a finger, that translates against anybody. Like, that popped off the tape. I know we talked about him a lot during this offseason. He was supposedly the biggest portal guy that we got on either side of the ball, but there still were question marks. Can you do what you did at Coastal Carolina at a place like Louisville? It sure as hell looked like it on Saturday.
He was swerving and bending that corner, Mike.
That was incredibly impressive, and I can't wait to watch him play football more. I also loved hearing him talk after the game. Like he gave some really insightful answers. He was the media representative with Miller Moss, and I was like, hell yeah, like this guy could be a superstar for us this year. Jordan Gerard, I thought, played really well in the middle as well. Like the secondary didn't get tested, which you knew was going to happen. They barely threw the ball. The defense overall, though, should have been an easy test to pass. They did it with flying colors. We'll talk more about that after the break. We'll also get into some of the downside things, the negative things that took place during week 1. We got to take our first break here. This is the Mike Rutherford Show. We're presented by our friends over at United Mechanical. We're live here on 1450 and 96.1. This is Big X Sports Radio. We're back after this. the Tuesday edition of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus, Louisville's newest construction management company. Live here on 1450 and 96.1 Big X Sports Radio. At 3:30, we'll be live on WBNH Channel 21. A little TV action for you. Shorter breaks for us, but that's all good. We're excited about it. Roman, did you think about your outfit today for the TV?
No. I did. I walked in without a hat, and I realized I don't have a haircut right now. So let me just throw a hat on.
The entire city would have been judging you had you not thrown that hat on.
It's just, I don't want to be looking raggedy my first time on TV, Mike. I already didn't shave, but I knew the mic would be covering that up anyway.
Damn right. We didn't have a chance. We were talking there about a little bit about the high points of Saturday's game, 51-17, Cardinal victory over Eastern Kentucky. I didn't get a chance to ask you, though. You went as a Big J journalist in the Big M media room. How was that experience? How did it go?
It was fun. It was great. It was tough to not cheer for that first 31-yard touchdown.
You're really quiet up there when that happens?
You're like,
I know.
My chair definitely made a noise. I don't know if anyone else's did. Didn't let anything come out, but after that moment, I got reestablished. Okay, this is serious. There's no cheering up here. You're analyzing a game right now. Really, like, I've only done it once, like at the Notre Dame game, but being reminded just how different it is watching a game up there. It's like I can only watch the offensive line going up against the defensive line. It's like I don't even see anything else for some reason. Once I try to establish what the defensive coverage is, I go back to watching the offensive lines and the linebackers and don't watch anything else for some reason. And then I don't even wait, where'd that penalty come from? I don't even see the flag. That's a different aspect that I'm going to have to get used to and learn. But rewatching it yesterday, I got to see a lot of different things. So it was still a good time. Food was great.
Are you going to keep doing the big man media thing this year?
Yeah, just because I don't have the luxury of doing the half and half, right? I won't rock it or no, I'm serious. I want to establish that this is something I want to do long term. So
look at you.
Go to all the ones that I can.
Look at you. So you watched the game. You watched the rebroadcast.
Yeah. Abelson recorded it for me.
Okay. Let me ask you if you picked up on something that I picked up watching the game live. I thought the announcers were incredibly hard on Miller Moss. It was like they went in with this mentality of this guy got benched at USC. He was turnover prone.
Yeah.
Like, Jorge Sedano was the play-by-play guy, and then Rodney McLeod was the analyst. And by the end of the game, I was like, did Miller, sleep with all of their female relatives? I don't understand what's going on.
Jealous of Miller's Angels?
They acted like he was 10 of 30 with 4 picks and no completions. I was like, the good outweigh. What are you guys watching? We won this. It was 41-0 or 41-7 when he came out of the game. He played pretty damn well. And they were like, yeah, those mistakes. I was like, Jesus, give him a break.
I get not all of the accuracy on the throws was absolutely great, but he made the right read and quickly just about every single time. I don't see where he was coming from. I definitely felt it at first, and then I realized I don't have to watch anything that isn't football. Once I realized that, Mike, I didn't see anything that wasn't live action. I can literally just go from snap to snap to snap when it's a DVR situation. So I stopped listening to the play-by-play for the most part outside of the actual live ball stuff. I didn't know if it got any better or not.
It was fine. I mean, for the most part, they were okay. Now, Rodney McLeod, I think, started the game without having his microphone attached because you could tell he was messing with it for the first drive. So it's like, that ruffling microphone noise was just kept going through the airwaves, and that distracted me. But other than that, it was standard ACC network broadcast. That's what you expect from them. Everyone talks about we got to stagger kickoff times and tip times more for these networks. Yeah. The ACC has done the opposite. They've gone with even less time. They
did this last year, and it's even worse already.
It's terrible. They had the noon kickoff and then a 3 p.m. kickoff and then a 6 p.m. kickoff. So they cut over to our game when Pitt Duquesne still had 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, but it was a blowout. And then they cut away from our game when there was 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter because we were blowing EKU out, so you had to flip over to the app if you wanted to watch the last 10 minutes like a true sicko. And I was like, come on, guy. I mean, you know what you're getting when you get an ACC network game, but I feel like the product should be at least a little bit better, but neither here nor there.
You see the clip of Colin Lacey with I forget her name, the Floyd Street Media host?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
He sounded like he didn't even think he played good at all.
He did drop 2 passes.
I was going to bring that up. I had that written down, Mike.
I mean, he made great plays. He had a couple of big plays in the passing game, and then obviously had the play of the game with a 93-yard kickoff return. Second longest kickoff return or punt return for a touchdown in Louisville football history, the longest since 1970. Shout out to our guy Kelly Dickey for the stat there. But there were a couple drops, Roman.
There was. One was really bad. One was right in his numbers. I mean, he had the reaction. You knew he saw it. He also had the green space in front of him with only one defender that you think he's going to win that advantage and even be able to cut up for more than that. And then he had one where I don't remember if I think he was kind of falling already a bit, but both hands on the ball, you got to come down with those.
Yeah, he had the one where he was just the classic case of turned his head upfield too fast and just the ball went right through his hands.
Which that might have been the second one.
That was the second one.
Yeah.
That's one of those where you're like, all right, man, you're too old for this. The good, again, I feel like I keep using this phrase, the good far outweighed the bad for Colin Lacey on Saturday. But when he's criticizing himself, it's valid criticism.
It is.
You're a 6-year guy. You're supposed to be one of the focal points of this offense. The 50-50 ball not being caught is one thing, but we can't have blatant drops. That can't happen this year, especially when we're trying to get a new quarterback comfortable and into the flow of this new system. I thought Chris Bell played well. It was kind of a quiet. He was the leading wide receiver. You looked at the numbers after the game, and you were like, really? He didn't have any of the gigantic plays. I
feel like he was running a lot of longer routes, and all the short stuff was opening up quicker for Miller.
Yeah. He had 5 catches for 63 yards, but the big plays, Lacey had the big catch up the left side, which could have been even bigger if Moss hits him in stride. Meeks had a couple of big catches. Chris Hughes had the touchdown catch from Brady Allen. So you saw a lot. I mean, Trayshawn Hurry got the first catch of the game and then didn't have a catch again.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit of Jaleel Skinner. Go ahead.
The pass to Meeks before the 3rd and 19 that forced the penalty. I thought that was a great read from Miller. Great pass there.
Yeah, I was disappointed that one got called back, but it did give us an opportunity to see him make a play on 3rd and long, which was cool to see.
Yeah. And then after that, he surprises you.
Yeah, he did. That was I thought that was the most impressive throw that he made of the game. Although the touchdown throw to Duke Watson was also placed right where only Duke could catch it, and he made a great catch there.
Perfect.
It was hard to really grade too much from the defense. I felt like they controlled the line of scrimmage when the starters were in there. The backups in the second half, like the push that EKU was getting against them, sort of made you think, like, we need the front seven to stay as healthy as they possibly can, because the backups didn't show a ton in that second half. They got pushed around a little bit, which was disappointing to see, but also not overwhelmingly unexpected. If we're talking about negatives from Saturday, give me the first one that comes to your mind.
The penalties are unacceptable.
No question.
Against an opponent like EKU, where, a lot of those holding calls, I don't mean to be like this. Trevor pointed it out last night as well. I had the same exact feeling. The matchup there shouldn't require for you to need a hold on a lot of those matchups there. The fact that you're not able to hold your ground on some of those, the timing off on some things, and is not using your hands correctly, Mike, that stuff has to be – that's what fall camp's for. And some of those things had to have been a point of emphasis last year because they were penalties last year for a lot of the same things. So I would just kind of want to know what got fixed. I get there's a lot of new pieces and moving parts, but some of these guys that were getting the penalties were here last year, and it's just unacceptable.
I love my guy Deion Branch. He's one of my favorite people associated with football. I don't know if he's teaching the blocking by the wide receivers, though, in his new job, but it felt like, I think out of the 6 or 7 holding calls we had, I think all but one of them was on a wide receiver.
It's funny because I feel like NFL wide receivers never get called for holding.
They never do. And maybe this is something as simple as, maybe Deion just telling them, like, you're probably not going to get called for this, just do it. And then, of course, we get the one officiating crew that is going to call it. Maybe we don't see this come up as a problem again the entire season. But it felt like penalty after penalty was on a wide receiver. Even the ones that occurred on special teams, that's an issue. You love being able to say these are correctable mistakes, but you also think back to last season when the first couple of games against Austin Peay and Jacksonville State, we had a bunch of problems that were correctable mistakes, and we talked about getting it fixed before we play Notre Dame and getting it fixed before we play SMU and all this stuff, and they didn't get fixed, and they played a huge part in us losing both of those games. So this is one of those things that I think you turn your focus on, and you expect an immediate correction on Friday against James Madison, because if we go out there and we get 10 penalties for 100-plus yards again, then it becomes all right, like, how big of a deal is this going to be for the entirety of the season? we've got to get this fixed now. No before Pitt, no before Virginia, no before we get to October. It starts Friday. Like, go ahead and get that addressed. That can't happen again because against a greater opponent, it's gonna cost you football games. The other thing, we lost the turnover battle has been such a big thing for Jeff Brom while he's been here. I'll read the stat again because it's maybe my favorite stat of the Brom era so far. Louisville 8-0 under Jeff Brom when it doesn't commit a turnover, 12-0 under Brom when it wins the turnover battle, just 7-8 before Saturday's game when it didn't, now 8-8. We forced 0 turnovers in this game against EKU, and we turned the ball over 3 times. Against most teams on the schedule, if not all other teams on the schedule,
they'll beat us.
You lose a turnover battle 3-0, you're either losing that game or you're fighting for your life. That's got to get figured out as well. We talked about the second Miller Moss interception. You can easily make the case that wasn't entirely on him. But
I didn't realize that was one of the plays he also kind of was telegraphing it either, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's
still the pass was perfect, but
it still could have been caught for sure.
You gave the safety a chance there with your eyes if that's what was happening.
No question about it. I think that the safety doesn't get there in time if he's not staring him down the entire way. I don't know if it was raining outside. Now I'm distracted. Wow. And then the third turnover, not quite as costly, but whatever. It's still 3. You still lost the turnover battle 3-0. That's got to get corrected. There were a couple of times when the second half, the defense got pushed around a little bit, which I didn't love seeing. I thought the offensive line played well for the most part. We don't have Trevante Sylvester. We found out after the game that he's dealing with an injury that's kept him out of the 2 deep. So you don't have one of your most experienced linemen. But I thought even without him, the offensive line held up the way that it should hold up against an opponent like EKU.
I think in the past game it was really good, Mike, but I felt like it didn't create a whole lot of holes in what felt like the little bit of run game that we did try to have.
Especially early on. Isaac's first carry, he kind of goes for nothing. Duke's only 2 carries, he kind of had nothing there. The holes that were present later in the game were maybe not quite as gaping as you'd like to see against a team like EKU, but I still thought for the most part they did what they should do against a team like Eastern Kentucky. So,
we were debating this last night on Real Spill. You think the starters got pulled a little bit too early for what the deficit was after that interception?
So this is something that I was going to ask you, so I'm glad you brought it up. It's 41-7 at halftime, and the starters get kind of yanked on a low because they had 2 opportunities to run the minute drill at the end of the first half. Miller throws the pick on the first drive, and then they give the ball back and throws the second pick right after that. I think this was the game plan all along, was to get to it. We've done this each of the first 2 years. The starters have all gotten pulled on offense at halftime. I think if we didn't have a short rest this week, I think they would have left the starters out there for at least the first drive of the third quarter. I think having a short week to get ready for James Madison, a game that some people aren't worried at all about it, but Jeff Brom certainly recognizes that this team is good and hung 70 points on an ACC opponent last year. I think that played a large factor in their decision to go ahead and yank the starters in the second half. Because while you'd like to have some stuff corrected, while you'd like to have some more positive momentum with those guys, and the reps as well, the bigger thing, I think, to them at least,
staying healthy,
was the rest and staying healthy. And you could tell, on the last couple of drives where we had the ball, we just threw it. They were trying to figure stuff out with Miller Moss. They were like, we know what we got with Isaac Brown. We know what we've got with Duke Watson. We know what we have with the running game. We've got to make sure that we can keep opposing defenses honest. We're just going to work on. We threw the ball, I think, every single play on the last 3 drives, including the 2 2-minute drills. Another negative to me was that second 2-minute drill. I felt like we didn't use the clock well again. And this has been if you're looking at downsides, if you're looking at negatives from the last 2 seasons, we have been bad with clock management, especially at the end of first halves. And anybody I think we need to go get a kid who just plays college football 25 or Madden all the time and just have him be our clock expert. Because anyone who plays the Madden game, when you get under 30 seconds or under 35 seconds, and you've got 2 timeouts and you're around midfield,
It's common sense.
You use that second timeout when you have a play where the clock is still rolling. Because then nobody has to wonder if you're going to take it or not if you're in the same situation. From that point forward, you complete a pass or you have a run play or whatever and you get tackled in bounds and you know you're saving that last timeout for a potential last-second field goal. You know you're sprinting the line and you know that you're getting the play in as quickly as possible. When you've got two and there's like 35 seconds left and you've got to play in bounds, everyone's kind of looking around. Everyone's kind of wondering what's going on. And we have done this so consistently where we don't use those timeouts and we waste so much time. And we did it again on Saturday. We got a first down with like 38 seconds left. We ended up snapping the ball with like 28 seconds left on the next play that would ultimately be the interception. That stuff's got to get figured out. That stuff we've got to be better at because it's cost us points in multiple games each of the last two seasons. And it didn't kill us this game, obviously, because we were already up by 34 points. It may kill us on Friday if we have the same thing happen.
Killed Dion on Friday.
Ugh. It did kill. I mean, Dion did not use the clock well.
41 seconds, 2 timeouts at half field. What are you thinking?
I mean, I know that a lot of old school coaches are resistant to analytics and stuff like that. You shouldn't be resistant to basic math. You know, like this is something that anybody who played video games in the 90s figured out how to do pretty well. I don't understand the inability to recognize when to use timeouts, when not to use timeouts, when to go hurry up, because it's not that difficult. And you can tell the teams that do it really, really well and really work on it, and the teams who are just like, we'll figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. Everything is scrutinized now. Everybody can tell when you don't do certain things like that very, very well. And it cost you. And it could have cost us, again, on Saturday if we'd been playing a better opponent. I thought the crowd was really good. Imagine if we had played this same opponent 3 years ago with Scott Satterfield, we get like 32K for that game. We had 50K plus. It was loud at the beginning when all things were equal. The place was going nuts during the first 4 or 5 touchdowns. And then people were like, why can't people stay around? Look, it's just never going to be that way here. It's never going to be that way here. People have stuff to do. It's Labor Day weekend. If the team is up 41-7 at halftime and they're up 48-7 late in the third quarter, people are going to leave the game. We may not like it. It's just the way that it is. For big games, they're going to stay there the whole way. For close games, they're going to stay there the whole way. For a game like EKU, you're up by 50 points. People are going to start filing out in the second half. It's the way it's always been. It ain't changing anytime soon. This is a big city. There's stuff for people want to do. They got kids. They got to get out there. You got soccer. There's stuff going on. But I thought overall the crowd was fantastic, Roman. You were there. Were you impressed?
I was impressed. It was a big turnout, I thought, for EKU. I get it was the first game back. You brought in a lot of big names, and you're heightened expectations for, I want to say, the majority of fans after last season with this schedule in particular. And I thought they were great, Mike. But like you said, I mean, this is what we do. Until we go and make college football playoffs and win games in the college football playoff and are a true contender, we're not going to have fans stay the entirety of games.
What did you think of the backup quarterback play? We saw a lot of Brady Allen. He basically was the quarterback for the entirety of the third quarter.
Love the Deuce run and read.
Yeah, he was the second man up. Deuce Adams was the third man up.
I thought Brady made a couple good throws. I thought he looked like he could do it, but I don't know about you, Mike. The eye test for me, there was a drop off in the eye test. I feel like what you saw in the pocket from Brady, a little bit more frantic. I feel like, and just, it's something to do with reps. When you haven't had as many reps as a lot of these other quarterbacks have in the same instance of big games like this, and you're trying to also go prove that you can do this, it's still a quarterback battle for him and Deuce at this point. It's going to be for the entirety of the season. That's a lot more pressure for somebody like Miller Moss, who has to just come in and make the right read. He's trying to go out there and show he can prove it, and I thought he did, but I thought the interception was unacceptable. I thought he telegraphed that. I thought I knew exactly where he was going with that way before he threw it, and so did that linebacker.
Yeah.
I also thought the touchdown pass was great. I thought Chris Hughes, he made a couple good passes to Chris Hughes. Granted, Chris made him look really good on one of them, but I wasn't mad at the play from the backups, but I obviously now am certain that if we lose Miller, we're cooked, as the young cats call it, Mike.
I think I'm just going to say it. I think Deuce Adams is QB2. I think that he's the guy. I've been saying all offseason, I think that if something happens to Miller in the middle of a game where it's just like ankle tweak or gets his helmet knocked off and has to come out for a play, that they will go to Brady Allen. I think if the worst had happened on Saturday or the worst happens on Friday and Miller Moss has a season-ending injury, I think they would try to get Deuce ready to go because I think he's got the higher upside. Brady Allen, he did some good things, made a couple of nice throws, had a good touchdown pass. He's still he throws like I did when I couldn't figure out how to throw in shoulder pads. It's a funky motion, and the ball kind of doesn't pop out of his hands the way it pops out of Deuce Adams's. And we had the read option play where he ran it for a first down. I thought the strike across the middle that he threw for a first down was a really good throw. The touchdown, maybe he had a little bit too much juice on the potential touchdown pass. It still hit the receiver right in the arms. You got to come down with that. I left Saturday feeling even more confident in my belief that Deuce Adams is right now the second best quarterback on this roster, and that I think that they're trying to prep him to be the guy next year. I mean, you saw those that run. There was some quickness there. Those were legitimate quicks to the outside. That is a legit dual threat that you can use in a variety of ways starting next season if he is your starting quarterback in his third year in this program. No disrespect to Brady Allen, but at this point, he is who he is. He's played college football for 5 full years. He's got one more year for next season. But, his ceiling is, I think, much lower than Deuce Adams's. We didn't get a chance to really see anything from anybody else. It was all just straight handoffs at the end of the game. But I liked what I saw from Deuce. I think Brady Allen was fine for the most part. The interception, like you said, was bad, but there were a couple of nice throws mixed in there. He stands tall in the pocket, which I know Jeff likes. But I think that Deuce Adams is, by the end of the year, he's QB2. Other guys that stood out, I thought Renee Conga and Jordan Gerard played well on the middle. You expected them to be very, very good. The linebackers didn't get a chance to do a ton of good things. Jaleel Skinner had a nice catch and a couple of nice blocks with Nate Kariski out. We also found out after the game that, I said Trevonte Sylvester's been dealing with an injury. They're not sure when he's going to be back. We also found out that Nate Kariski has been dealing with an injury. They're hoping he's going to be they're hoping he's going to be back on Friday night. And then I think a couple guys got dinged up a little bit in that game. Jabari Mack was one of those. But it sounds like for the most part, we've avoided the catastrophic injury this offseason, and we avoided the catastrophic injury on Saturday. Anything else stand out to you from week one that we have not addressed just yet, Roman?
I thought the defensive line just looked great all around, Mike. I thought they did their job well. I thought the timing was good. I thought we wanted to see clear-cut understanding between the sidelines and the defensive unit, and I felt like there was never any moments where they looked confused or unsure, that was a positive. And, yeah, Mike, the speed from all of the different athletes who are going to have the potential to have the ball in their hands is really, really enticing, and I'm excited to see what it looks like going forward against even more opponents.
It was also a game where I feel like we were never going to find out. The biggest mystery to me and to most people on the defense is the secondary. And I did a podcast with some JMU folks this morning, and they were asking a lot of questions about the defense and the secondary in particular. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. We saw what EKU threw, I think, 15 passes, and there was some good coverage on a handful of plays. But for the most part, we don't know much more about the secondary than we knew going into the game. I also thought it was a little bit interesting. We get the depth chart on Saturday morning. There were a couple things on the depth chart that just were not accurate. Like Dakari Collins was listed as a starter. He very much did not start the game. Trayshawn Hurry got the ball thrown on the very first play, and we didn't see Collins much until the second half started and the backups came in. I think Tan Holloway was listed as a starter at cornerback. I don't think he started the game at cornerback. The kickers were reversed. They had Nick Keller as the starting kicker. Cooper Ranvier was very much the starting kicker, at least for field goals and extra points. What did you think about the kicking and the special teams overall? I know we had the big returns, but as far as the kickers and the punters are concerned,
Punt was bad.
Carter Schwartz kind of looked like he did last year.
Cooper, I got my eyeglass on you, Cooper.
Wow.
You almost missed that extra point. One of those extra points nearly didn't go in. He clearly has the power. He's absolutely booting the ball. I'm worried about the accuracy though, Mike. I need to see what he looks like in some real field goal situations now, because I want to make sure that he can knock them down when we need him to in that 35 to 40 range. Those are going to be important.
I was glad we got the chance to give him that field goal opportunity late. I know it was a chip shot, but I still liked getting him out there and seeing him take a rep that actually mattered in the game. Because like you said, Keller had the missed extra point, but it was mostly on the snap, and then damn near missed the next one. Ranvier had one that barely snuck through. So you're like, all right, I mean, the good was we got most kicks through the back of the end zone on kickoffs.
Yeah.
I think Keller was 5 of 7, and then we brought in the kid from Carson Hilbert from Trinity, who booted one through. Schwartz looked the same. We got a nice bounce, but that was not a good punt. I'm worried about the punting game.
If the penalties don't get fixed, Mike, the field goals are going to have to get knocked down.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't, we're going to have to get the field goals knocked down as well, because that's just the way that college football works. All right, we take a break. We're going to come back. We'll be on television for the next segment. We'll get to you guys on the Game Day Men's Health text line. We're also going to play a little bit of Roman's favorite game, overreaction, proper reaction from week 1 in college football. We'll get to that after the break. It's the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus. Welcome back in. Tuesday edition of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus, Louisville's newest construction management company. It's hour number 2 of our show today. It's hour number 1 for you fine folks out there on WBNA Channel 21. Welcome into the show. Shout out to Andy's TV. Happy to be here for the next 2 hours with you guys, and for you with you for the next 2 hours with everybody else as well. We'll get to thoughts from listeners on the Game Day Men's Health text line momentarily. The number there, 502-414-1450 to weigh in with your questions, your comments, your concerns. A little bit of news, though, to kick off hour number 2. Isaac Brown has been officially named the ACC running back of the week. Brown led the team in rushing, of course, with just 6 carries, but for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's his 6th 100-yard game, despite playing just 14 overall games in his college career. He averaged a remarkable 21 yards per carry, scored on runs of 31 and 68 yards, despite playing just one half of action. It's the 5th time in his short career where he's been named the ACC running back of the week, and I think it's probably not going to be the last time this year that Isaac brings home that honor. Roman Kelly's with me producing the show. Give him a follow on Twitter at RomyBean. Roman, one of the things that I do love, it's weird having this short week, especially going into week 2, where standard operating procedure on opening week, Saturday afternoon game, and then you come right back with a Friday game after a holiday. But I love the way that this shapes up for us as fans, because Labor Day yesterday, no work, no school. You come back, you have a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, and then you get a Friday night game. We're going to turn the page from Eastern Kentucky tomorrow, and we're going to be 48 hours away from kickoff. I love the short week, Roman.
I love it, too.
At least for us, it's great.
It feels great. You don't have to add anything in between. You don't have to have any filler talk, really, is what we call it. Not that there really is much filler this time of year. We can get into all the other ACC things. There's plenty of different talk we can get into. But I like it. It's like a end of summer break type of thing.
It feels good.
Feels great.
It's not great for Jeff Brom. I don't think he loves the short week going into week 2. But for us, it's fantastic. Now, the downside of this is we have a short wait before week 2, but then we got a bye week coming up after week 2. So we get Friday Night Football, and then we've got 2 full Saturdays without getting a chance to watch the Cards play until they're back in action against Bowling Green on September 20th. So that's not ideal, but we'll soak up this short week as much as we possibly can. Before we get to the Game Day Men's Health text line, I know our listeners are chomping at the bit to start having their takes heard on the radio. Are you ready to talk a little national college football?
I am.
With a segment that we like to call Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
Hit me with it.
All right. The first overreaction or proper reaction comes off of what we saw last night. Bill Belichick's college debut did not go according to plan, at least for the folks down there in Chapel Hill. North Carolina blown out by TCU. Even before it got ugly, when it was 10-7, I texted my buddies, and I was like, I think Carolina may stink. Like, they look like they're running an offense from 1997. They don't have any sort of eye-popping players out there.
Abelson said the same thing.
So overreaction or proper reaction, North Carolina in its first year under Bill Belichick will not make a bowl game.
That sounds like an overreaction. I'm going to go overreaction. That's too far.
I think it's a proper reaction. I think this team's just not good. They've got no real big NFL talent. Gio Lopez, I don't think he's got what it takes at quarterback. I get that TCU is maybe a little bit undervalued going into the season. I watched that game last night. I don't know about you. I felt like it was more about Carolina than it was about TCU. Maybe TCU is a legit top 25 team, but I don't think it was them just destroying a Carolina team that's going to go out there and win 8 or 9 games this season. I think their bowl chances may hinge. They've got 2 nobodies coming up. They'll play Charlotte and Richmond the next 2 weeks. Obviously, those are must-wins if you're going to get to 6, 7, 8 wins, whatever. Then they go at UCF, a UCF team that may not be that good on September 20th. We'll see how that one goes. If they can get to 3-1 before they go into conference play, good chance they can go 3-5, get to 6-6, and make a bowl game. But, man, they start conference play with a heavy load. They'll play Clemson their first conference game, at Cal, who looked pretty good in their opener, and then they host Virginia and go on the road against Syracuse. Their conference schedule is not that tough, but I think they're going to go 5-7, man. That team just showed me nothing. All right, overreaction or proper reaction? Arch Manning doesn't have what it takes to be an NFL quarterback and is the most overrated preseason Heisman favorite of all time.
I think I figured this was going to be one. I was prepared to say proper reaction to whatever it may be, but that sounds like it's too far.
You think that's too much?
I think that Ohio State defense is very, very legit. I do think that's going to be one of the top 3 defenses in the nation, and I think he just struggled with it. I think he'll work through his issues. I think he'll get better. He'll get more reps. That's too far. I fortunately have to go that's a overreaction.
I mean, I think he can be fine. But, and I agree with you, the Ohio State defense, they went out there and they loaded up on some of the best, they had probably the best portal class in the country, and most of the guys that they went out there and got were on the defensive side of the ball. That defense is legit. But there were also times, even when Arch had a clean pocket and an open man downfield, where he just didn't make the throw. And that, to me, was surprising. From the first play on, he looked rattled. And I think that it's not just a matter of his skill set. It's a matter of, can he handle all the stuff that's on his shoulders? Not just being the Texas starting quarterback, not just being preseason number 1 in the country, but all the things that come along with being a Manning. I mean, you had people before he ever was the man at Texas saying that NFL teams were going to tank their season to draft him. That's a ton of pressure for a kid that really hadn't shown anything against any team with a pulse. And he looked bad on Saturday. I'm going to say it's an overreaction for now. But I don't think I realized how funky the throwing motion is. If you're going to have that kind of sidearm throw, you better be damn good at it. Or else you're going to need to throw like a normal quarterback and get those mechanics down. He did not look good at all at any point on Saturday.
No, he didn't.
And actually had one really bad interception that got taken away. His numbers could have been even worse if that penalty doesn't happen, a penalty that did not affect the play. I'm concerned if I'm a Texas fan. We'll see how he looks against lesser competition in week 2. Overreaction or proper reaction? Alabama, and its time as being one of the top programs in college football, is done, at least until they fire Kalen DeBoer.
Proper reaction. I agree. I don't think he can coach, Mike. I don't think that defense is ready. I don't think he knows what he's doing with the talent he's got, if I'm being honest. It's weird because Alabama's name in the NIL era in the SEC is still going to bring in the talent just because there's still been a top-end SEC team even since Saban's left. But I don't think that he's got what it takes to create a contender right now. I don't think so at all. I think this is a proper reaction.
I mean, it was, I guess, not the craziest thing in the world that they lost the game at Florida State. The way in which it happened was, I think, eye-opening is one way to put it. Florida State dominated from start to finish. There was never really any moment. I mean, Bama got a little bit of momentum in the second half when they cut it to a one-score game, but there was never a real moment where you felt like Florida State was reeling, and it was a matter of this team, this Bama team is just, they're clearly so much better, but all these things are going against them. Florida State looked like the better team from start to finish, and props to Tommy Castellanos. I mean, we kind of took shots at him for the things that he was saying during the offseason. Man backed it up.
He did.
He called out Alabama
yesterday.
I mean, he took it right to him. He was the best offensive player on the field in that game, and Florida State scores a huge win for them and also a pretty big win for the ACC. Overreaction or proper reaction? Everything Mike Rutherford said about Clemson this entire offseason was valid.
Proper reaction.
It's a proper reaction. They're done, son.
Klubnik did not look good. The continuity didn't look like it improved any crazy part. I still do feel like that defense has the athletes on it to go and be good this season, but they didn't look great. They had a lot of good plays. They also had some plays where they looked lost. And just like they didn't look as athletic as a couple guys on that LSU side. I don't think this is a 11-win team like people think. I don't really think it's a 10-win team.
For the 55th time in the calendar year of 2025, allow me to say this. Clemson is fine. They're nothing more. They're nothing less. They are not elite anymore. Those days are done. It's over. They're not legitimate national title contenders. Could they win the ACC? Sure. Could they beat us? Sure. Could they win a national championship? No chance. None. Cade Klubnik is fine. Is he a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender? No. Is he a legitimate number 1 NFL draft pick? No. I don't know where this came from. And these great wide receivers, they're out there dropping passes. This top-tier defensive line, like you said, they're getting pushed around a little bit by LSU. That game, I mean, LSU had a touchdown that I think was Barry Brown from Kentucky clearly brought in that they overturned. LSU probably should have won that game by 2 touchdowns. They were better. They looked superior in every way, shape, or form.
They did.
And now Dabo's out there saying, well, it was like having a final exam on the first week of class, and LSU scored a 65, and we scored a 58. You scored 100% in cope because you're just trying to cope with the fact that you're done. It's over. They could beat us. They're fine.
What's going to happen?
I don't care. Nothing that I've said about them is wrong, though. I told you they were going to lose this weekend. We both did. By the way, I went 9-1 and pick them, and you went 8-2.
We had good weeks.
I loaded up on LSU money line. I loaded it up on Miami money line. I thought the Miami one was going to come back and bite me, but it did not. Which leads me to last one, overreaction, proper reaction. Miami should be the new favorite in the ACC.
I hate that that's a proper reaction.
You think so?
It is. That offensive line looked really good.
They did.
Those receivers who I had question marks about, not really proving guys or guys that not proven at this level yet, came in and showed that they can be pass catchers in that offense going up against an elite group of defenders. I don't really want to even call that an elite defense, Mike, but we do know that the talent in terms of rankings that they brought in on that defensive side and that they've been able to keep on that defensive side, that they have guys always waiting that would be starting at other power programs that are coming in and starting this year, and they didn't look great. That Notre Dame defense did not look great. And Carson Beck, every single pass play that his offensive line gave him time, he looked good. It kind of was the case at Georgia a little bit, I feel like, on top of having really good receivers. But Carson Beck went out there and won that game, I feel like. And again, they got some help there, but getting those kind of takeaways, I feel like Carson Beck did everything he needed to do to make that offensive side get up and down the field, and they did that. I thought they ran the ball pretty well. I also thought that the Miami defense did what it needed to do. So I have to agree with you.
I would think it was a proper reaction if this were any program besides Miami or if they had a coach other than Mario Cristobal. I think they look better than any other ACC team this weekend. I'm still not going to say they should be the favorites because I expect them to find some sort of way to screw it up at some point in time. Your primary takeaway from that game was exactly the same as mine. Miami's offensive line looked remarkably good. And I think what they proved was that if you have the money, and very few programs have the money that they do, it's worthwhile to use at least some of that chunk of money to go out there and invest in a top-tier offensive line. Because, most programs, they've got limited capital, and it feels weird still talking about college sports like this, but this is where we are. And they're going to use most of the money that they've got on specialty players or positions of need. You're going to go out there, you're going to get a top-tier quarterback if you can, or a running back or a wide receiver or a big-time linebacker, and then you're going to use whatever you've got left to kind of fill in the gaps with the best pieces that are available and fit your budget. Miami's got, I don't want to say unlimited funds, but they've got a ton of money down there. And so they got Carson Beck, they got some other guys out there, and they still had a bunch of money left over, and so they were like, let's go out there and let's buy the best offensive line we can. And that offensive line looked phenomenal against Notre Dame. I still think there were things, if you're a Miami fan, that you look at and you're like, okay, our coach doesn't understand basic math. He can't count. They got bailed out because the kid, you're laughing, it's 100% true. How many times does he have to show us that he doesn't know how to count? They got bailed out because their wide receiver made the best catch we may see this entire season, but that should have cost them points.
Unreal snag.
Him having no ability to look at the clock and say, oh, maybe we need to go fast because the clock's running, or maybe we should use a timeout here because there's 10 seconds left. Their coach, I genuinely think that Jeff Brom would win a national championship with Mario Cristobal's players. Ruben Bain is a monster on that side of the ball. The defense is good. The offense has the potential to be elite. And their coaching is the only thing holding back that program right now. I fully expect them to fall flat on their face at some point this season when they shouldn't. Hopefully it's against us on that Friday night in about a month and a half. But if all things were equal, they look better than any ACC team this weekend outside of maybe Florida State. Last question for you. This is not an overreaction, proper reaction. After seeing what we saw from our opponents in week one, do you feel like our schedule is tougher than you thought it was a week ago, easier than you thought it was a week ago, or about the same?
I think it's about the same. I'm glad that we're not playing Cal in California. Having to travel and that maybe the potential for that offense to be a little bit serious this year wouldn't be fun.
That quarterback looked good.
He did look really good. I'm really not, Mike. I'm less scared about the Clemson game and more scared about the Miami game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the primary takeaway is Clemson. Although, like, again, I expected this. I did not. I would have felt more scared about the Clemson game if they'd beaten LSU and maybe beaten them handily. Now I feel kind of the same way about the Clemson game. They're good. They're fine. I said it. Pitt blew out Duquesne the way they were supposed to. I think at VT looks a little bit scarier.
The defense. Okay, I had this note as well. The defense for Virginia Tech
looked good.
Looked serious.
They look serious.
They had some hard hitters on that team.
They win that game if they get halfway competent quarterback play.
40% competent quarterback play.
Kyron Jones looked bad. He's an athlete.
You would have scored more points with your arm in that game, Mike.
He missed wide open guys time after time after time.
Interceptions, one wasn't terrible, one was awful.
Two of them were in the red zone.
Yeah.
Like they score 11 points on a team that's the South Carolina offense is supposed to be explosive, and their defense is doing its job. If VT just gets competent quarterback play, they probably win that game. I think playing them later in the season,
they're not going to have anything to play for.
I hope not.
No way he can win enough games for him.
I still feel like that game's a little bit tougher than it looked going into last week. BC looked fine. Cal, I thought, looked better than I thought they were going to. SMU, we're not going to find out anything about them. They played East Texas A&M. They do get Baylor this weekend, so we'll find out a little bit about them after week 2. Kentucky did beat Toledo, but it kind of went the way that we thought it was going to. Do we think Zach Calzada there's any chance that he's the starting quarterback against Louisville?
No chance.
There's zero chance. It's going to be Cutter
He
Boley.
looked bad.
He looked terrible. He looked very bad. Made a couple of throws early on, but missed a lot of guys by large margins. At least it seemed that way in the highlights that I saw. I feel like it's going to be Cutter Boley.
They scored more points than I thought they would, though.
They did. I mean, 24. They won. They didn't cover, but they won. They gritted it out. We'll see what they do against Ole Miss this weekend. Let's take our first look today at the Game Day Men's Health text line. The phone number there is 502-414-1450. Game Day Men's Health, in case you're wondering, is redefining men's wellness with no shortcuts, just results. We're talking testosterone, peptides, weight loss, and sexual performance therapy. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com to find out how they're defining a new era in men's health. 502-414-1450, our first look at the text line today. Texter says, we have a lot of text to get through. Oh, in-season post-victory shows, they're back, baby. Texter says, may I be the first to say about the TV broadcast, Mike, what happened? It's blinding. In all seriousness, have you ever been to Big Bar? I had an experience there this weekend. Great Saturday of football, walking and dancing. Can't wait to do it all again on Friday night. Roman, have you been to Big Bar?
I've not. I've heard of it. Heard it's a good time, but I have not been.
I haven't been there either. If we know that Dave, the teacher from Jeffersonville, is going to be there, though, I feel like the clientele is about to pick up. Business is about to be booming. Texter says, hey, Mike and Roman, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I was not impressed with the Cards this weekend. Couldn't watch it or listen to the game live, so only watched it this morning. After watching Miami, SMU, etc. over the weekend, I'm more than a little pessimistic for the season. I know it's week 1 and it's Eastern, but still, lots to work on, but at least we're not UNC.
It's not Debbie Downing.
No, it's not. It's your opinion. I feel like if your expectation was for this team to go 11-1 or 12-0, maybe even 10-2, maybe you're like, I would have liked to see us be a little bit more crisp, a little bit more pristine. But if you're like, Roman and I both said we think that they're going to go 9-3, some nice ups, a couple, maybe a down or two. I don't think your opinion changed that much based on what they did. 51-17, starters dominated the way that they were supposed to, but there were
one unacceptable turnover.
And there were some other negatives. The penalties were bad. There were a couple of times where our linebackers seemed like they were slightly out of position. It's nitpicking, but that's all you have to do when you're playing an FCS team. It's all you have to go off of. So,
I thought they reacted really well to the second QB draw.
They did.
After the first one, he got
for sure
their easiest run of the game. The next one, they were really ready for it, so that was a good look. Texas, also knowing that he's not going to be running much. So
yeah, I mean, it's a fair point though. They didn't get beat by the same play twice in a row, which was an issue last year. There were several times where once a play worked one time, you knew you were going to see it 4 or 5 more times, and that our defense more than likely was not going to adjust. Texas, one thought of the game this weekend. I wish football had a statistical system like baseball where interceptions and points allowed are noted accordingly based on who's responsible for a mistake, just like errors and unearned runs are in baseball. Just looking at the score and the INTs alone doesn't tell the story of the defense or Miller Moss's accuracy. It would be nice if football implemented the same model, and I think it's more information for pollsters and scoreboard watchers who don't see the circumstances of a game. I think this is a great point.
Kind of like a true shooting percentage?
Yeah, or I mean just like last year, the Tyler Shuck interception against Notre Dame, that should have gone on Ja'Cory Brooks. Like you'd have to change the whole statistical model, but making that be an INT for him, if you didn't watch the game and you just look at box scores and you see 3 INTs or 2 INTs, you assume that the quarterback made a couple of bad decisions.
Yeah.
You don't assume, because it's impossible to know exactly what took place, that a wide receiver had a ball hit him in the numbers and had it pop up right to a defender, or that it was a Hail Mary at the end of a first half that got picked off in an end zone. Interceptions rarely tell the entire story of what took place. And yeah, the first one, you can accurately put that on Miller Moss. The second one, I think it's a little bit more difficult to say. Even if you think, I made the case that he was staring down the wide receiver, which I think is true. Even then, it took a couple of miraculous deflections and a kick to have it bounce right into the hands of an EKU defender. And you could definitely argue as well that ball should have been caught. So it's I would like to see that happen. I think we're probably too far gone at this point for any sort of massive overtaking of the football statistical system. But it's a good idea, for sure. I'm trying to think of what else you could do.
Not crazy to think that Miller might surpass Jack and Tyler interceptions, though, now, huh?
Yeah, not crazy at all. I mean, I mentioned I did the JMU podcast today, and it was pretty clear that one of the guys was just talking about you had probably watched the entire game, which I don't blame him for. If you sit down there and watch 4 quarters of Louisville versus EKU, and you're not a Louisville fan, you're probably a sicko or a coach. And he was just like, Miller Moss had interception problems, looked like it reared its head again on Saturday. Is that a genuine concern for Louisville? And I kind of had to be like, well, it's not quite that simple. I saw some USC fans gloating over the fact that Moss threw a pair of picks and Maeva didn't throw an interception in week 1. And I was like, again, doesn't tell the whole story. Texter says, Louisville transfer portal notables in week 1. JoJo Stone had 1 catch for 5 yards. Austin Collins had the worst Pro Football Focus grade of all linemen in the Syracuse game. Jamari Johnson didn't record a catch. Damon Clowney, Ben Perry, Devin Neal, and Aaron Williams had no stats. Blue Hicks and Mo Turner had great games, which doesn't surprise me at all. Mason Reiger had a sack and 3 tackles for Wisconsin. I'm thinking that we gained more than we lost. Jared Dawson had a couple of nice plays for Notre Dame in the game as well. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be weird having to do this every single season, where we're like looking at 15 guys that left and are now playing big roles and trying to figure out exactly what we lost and what we didn't lose based on the portal from this past season. He brings up Mo Turner. Maurice Turner did have a good game for Tulane. They thrashed Northwestern 23-3. He had 14 carries for 86 yards. Did you see the whole Tulane Northwestern kind of controversy?
I didn't, no.
So it's been 20 years since Hurricane Katrina, and Tulane wanted to wear these white uniforms that were specially made to honor the 20th anniversary of Katrina, and Northwestern has to sign off it because they're the home team. They're supposed to be wearing white, and they were like, no, we're not going to do it. And so Tulane was like, all right, well, we're just going to go up there and just absolutely kick the crap out of you. And that's what they did. And then John Summerall, their head coach afterward, kind of talked about being disrespected and all. It was a misstep by Northwestern, no question about it. And they felt the brunt of it, losing 23-3. But Maurice Turner, very nice game for them. I mean, I don't think anybody at Louisville didn't think Mo Turner was good. It was just a matter of he got hurt, and then we found out that there were two guys who were younger than him who were probably a little bit better. I don't think, this was the type of transfer portal defection that you don't mind. He doesn't want to compete for carries with two guys that have more eligibility than he does. He felt like he would have been the third string running back if he'd come back, so you don't fault him for going somewhere else, and he's having success. All right, we got to go to break. When we come back, it's the 4 o'clock hour of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus. We'll go more to the text line. We'll talk more Louisville football. Back after this here on 1450 and 96.1, The Big X.
It's kickoff time.
Welcome back in. It's the 4 o'clock hour of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus, Louisville's newest construction management company. reacting to all the news of the weekend that was in Louisville sports and beyond. Great start to Labor Day weekend with college football is just phenomenal. You've got a big game for 5 consecutive nights. That Thursday, Friday, Saturday run where you've got games during the day as well is just phenomenal. If you want to sit around, do nothing but watch college football for the entirety of the weekend, you can. They added an afternoon game on Sunday this year, which was phenomenal. Still would like to have a few more games during the day on Monday, or at least some games during the day on Monday, but beggars can't be choosers. It was still a fantastic week, and college football got off to a very, very hot note. Now it's Tuesday. We got NFL starting in just 2 days. Feels good to be able to say that. We do also want to remind you guys, Jeff Brom radio show. It's a day early this week because we've got the Friday night kickoff. Tonight, 7 to 8 at the Roosters in Fern Creek, the Jeff Brom weekly radio show will go down. If you want to listen to it, you can do so on our sister station, 970 WGTK. 7 to 8 tonight, Roosters in Fern Creek. Jeff Brom giving you all the info from week 1 of the Louisville football season. We mentioned that Isaac Brown is the ACC running back of the week. According to our guy, Kelly Dickey, Brown is just the 3rd Louisville football player to win an ACC Player of the Week honor 5 or more times. Roma, would you care to venture a guess as to who the other 2 are?
Say that one more time.
Isaac Brown is the 3rd Louisville player to win ACC Player of the Week 5 or more times. Who are the other 2?
5 or more times. Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson is correct. He was ACC Player of the Week 9 times during his career. Second one's tougher.
5 times. I don't know.
Javian Hawkins, the running back from a few years ago, who I think is doomed to be one of the more forgotten great Louisville football players of the modern era, just because he was on those Scott Satterfield teams.
I remember him.
He was the entire offense for a couple of years. He and Malik Cunningham / Mikhail Cunningham. But Javian Hawkins was the ACC running back of the week 5 times during his career as well. Now Isaac's got a whole season left at least to break to break that tie with Hawkins. He's like I said, 14 games in his college career, and he's been named the ACC Player of the Week in 5 of those, which is pretty ridiculous. Quick look around the ACC before we go back to the Game Day Men's Health text line. NC State, we mentioned, they barely eke out a victory over East Carolina. Duke blew out Elon. Wake Forest, Roman.
Terrible.
There's some issues in Winston-Salem. They beat Kennesaw State 10-9 in a home game. That's not ideal. This would be a year where you would like having the Demon Deacons on the schedule. Unfortunately, we do not. We don't have Georgia Tech on the schedule either. They go on the road and knock off Colorado. It was a fantastic Friday night game, 27-20. How much of that did you see?
Saw most of it. Saw pretty much all of it. Haynes King can't throw worth anything, Mike.
He threw the ball really poorly, and they didn't try to make him throw it that much.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if there's something. Well, of course, he rushed for like 160 yards and 3 touchdowns.
They just didn't have the bodies to really prevent the Georgia Tech offensive line from getting Haynes King in where he needed to be.
I think you're exactly right. But they looked awfully good. LSU takes down Clemson. Did you see, we mentioned Dabo Swinney's comment about, it's a final exam on week 1. They were graded as like a 65. We were graded as like a 58. Did you see Brian Kelly's response?
No.
Which came out about 30 minutes ago. I'd love to play it here, but I think that we're still having issues with playing audio. He said either he's like, we dominated them in the second half. So either he's a really good grader of himself, or he's a really tough grader on us, or he just didn't pay any attention to the second half, which if I were him, maybe I wouldn't have either, so I don't really blame him for that. Shots fired from the real Death Valley down there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Florida State pounded Alabama 31-17. SMU, no problem with East Texas A&M 42-13. Syracuse got housed by Tennessee. I think a lot of people thought that maybe that was a game where Q's could compete a little bit. They were never really in that game.
They were going to be, but I feel like everybody thought they were going to be.
I thought they were going to be held below 18.5 points. It was one of my big bets. That did not hit either. 45-26, the final score there. Pittsburgh blasted Duquesne, 61-9. Boston College, no issues with Fordham, 66-10. Louisville, we know what they did. Virginia destroyed Coastal Carolina, 48-7. California, I thought, looked really good against Oregon State on the road in Corvallis, 34-15. They've got a problem with that true freshman quarterback. That game could be a little bit tougher than we thought it was going to be. They looked awfully good in that game. Notre Dame, they lose to Miami. And then we've talked about Virginia Tech, South Carolina. And then, of course, last night, the debacle with Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend, 48-14. Do we think Bill Belichick makes it the year two?
No.
I think this is it. I think he's one and done. They're talking about the reality show. By the way, TCU social media last night had an all-time night. They were absolutely crushing it on Twitter. Every joke that you could possibly make, they were making it. They handled that situation very appropriately. They were ready to capitalize on that, and they did.
I need something, though, Mike.
Okay.
I need a post-week 1 Rutherford ACC QB power rankings. We can just go top 6.
ACC QB power rankings top 6. I mean, Cade Klubnik's is like 13? How could you possibly have Cade Klubnik in the top 5? I mean, who do we think is the number 1 quarterback in the conference now?
I feel like, Tommy's got to be top 4.
I would put Tommy Castellanos at 1. The Haynes King thing is weird because he was so good on the ground.
Great.
But he didn't throw the ball well, and throwing the ball was supposed to be, his big thing.
He had that X factor, Mike. When he get a little bit hurt, all of his attributes start going up.
Yeah. I mean, he's that type of guy. He's a gritty player. It's like another coach out there on the field. All right, I'm going to give it I'll take a stab at this. I'll say Castellanos is 1 right now because he played so well against the toughest opponent of anybody besides
Carson Beck
or Cade Klubnik. I'm going to put Carson Beck at 2.
That's what I got.
I thought he played really well. I'll put Klubnik begrudgingly at 3. I'll put Darian Mensah at 4. I'm going to put Miller Moss at 5. And then, there's a lot of good quarterbacks. I'm going to put the JKS from Cal at 6. I thought he looked really good.
I like it.
Eli Holstein played well, but it was Duquesne. I don't really know how to grade that. Haynes King ran the ball super well, but didn't throw it. C.J. Bailey had some good highs, but had some bad lows as well. If we're going to expand it, I'll say Haynes King at 7. I'll put Holstein at 8. Kevin Jennings he didn't look great, honestly, in their game, but he didn't have to do much. I'll put him at 9, and then rounding out the top 10, I'll put the Lonergan kid looked good, but against nobody. I'll put C.J. Bailey from NC State at 10. God, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league, aren't there?
Producer Keith went Mensah at 1, Sagapolatelli at 2. Did I say that right?
I can't believe he didn't put Klubnik at 1.
He's got Beck at 3, Klubnik at 4, and Morris at 5.
Producer Keith just wanted to put Klubnik at 1. How quickly the tides have changed for Producer Keith. He's like texting me. He's like, the offensive line sucks. I'm like, Klubnik sucks. Let's be clear about something. I was right. The program's done. The kid's always been overrated. That's all there is to it. I want to give a quick shout out as well before we go to the Game Day Men's Health text line, Roman. Louisville Volleyball kicks off their season with 3 sweeping victories in the Cardinal Classic. They take down Villanova, Morehead State, and St. John's. And they're now up a spot in the AVCA Top 25 poll. They're now the number 3 team in the country. Danny Busby Kelly in Nebraska, by the way. A little bit of a scare over the weekend. Everyone's saying this is the greatest volleyball team ever assembled. They lost the first 2 sets to Kentucky and then had the reverse sweep, winning in 5 sets. They won the last 3. They're still the number 1 team in the country. We're sitting there at 3. We'll get more tests this week. But Louisville Volleyball off to a great start in the Dan Meskey era. Who knows?
That's what's cool about volleyball, man. A team can have a couple hot hands and a little bit of luck, and you can lose a set easy to a team that you're top to bottom better than.
It happens. Not to us. 9 sets played, 9 sets won for the Louisville Volleyball team so far. Please get back to me, Dan Meskey. Come on. Cards will take on Illinois on Sunday. And then next week, the schedule really takes a step forward. September 10th, a week from tomorrow, they're going to play Texas, who is always a national powerhouse. And then they'll play Creighton, who they faced in the NCAA tournament last year on Friday. Northern Iowa, who they almost lost to in the NCAA tournament last year on Saturday, and then Rice on Sunday. The Kentucky match, if you want to get excited about it, Thursday, September 18th at the KFC Yum Center. Get your tickets now. That UK team appears to be very legit, and that should be a matchup of two top 10 squads when they take the court inside the KFC Yum Center. ESPNU will have the TV coverage for that. All right, let's get back to the Game Day Men's Health text line. 502-414-1450 is the number. Overreactions, proper reactions, underreactions, whatever you got. We're taking all reactions here on this Monday edition of the Mike Rutherford Show. Texter says, all I took away from this weekend was that Notre Dame has their own Boubacar Traore on the football side. For real, though, why did Duke Watson not get more carries this weekend? Notre Dame has a player named Boubacar Traore. He's not a Boubacar Traore, though, like our guy was. No idea whether or not they call him Kadir. But I noticed that actually last year, where I was like, that's very strange that we have. Because it was when we signed a Boubacar Traore, I was trying to find out stuff about him. I was like, oh, there's a football player with almost the exact same name. Duke Watson only getting 2 carries. I thought it was interesting that after the game, they asked Chris Barclay about that, and he was like, I didn't know he only had 2 carries. He had no idea. I mean, we didn't run the ball.
We didn't.
Isaac only had 6 carries.
Like you said, in the second half of that second quarter, felt like we didn't run hardly at all.
I think we were just worried about getting the passing game going. I genuinely believe that Jeff and Brian and company went into that game saying, all right, like you don't want to gloss over anything, but we know what we've got in the running back department. We've got to get the passing game going if the better defensive teams that we have on our schedule are going to do anything other than just load up the box against us. Like, we've got to be ready for that. We've got to be ready to go. And EKU tried to do that. You know, they were fully focused on slowing down the running game. By the way, the kid who had the TikTok talking about, like, oh, they've got 60K fans. Oh, their running back's all ACC. Kind of embarrassed himself on Saturday. Was out of position on a number of the big plays.
Yeah, for like the 31-yarder.
That was
Isaac Brown. I felt like he could have been in position to stop that.
He slipped. Had no idea where to go. He looked bad. It was a rough day for him. And then he got blown up online, which was great. Did I play a part in it? Maybe. But, you know, it's like this is how I'm spending the first days of being 41, engaging with a 20-year-old college kid. A 22-year-old. It's not bowling if it's right. That's all that matters. You take the first shot, we're firing back. But I feel like they went into the game kind of being more focused on the passing game and just trying to get that going because we know, I mean, I think it starts Friday against James Madison, whose defense is not supposed to be like top 25 good, but certainly better than EKU. They're going to force us to win throwing the football, and they won't adjust until Miller Moss proves that he can beat them through the air. Yep. And like we're going to have to open up the running game via the passing game, which is the opposite of what we were doing last year.
A big day from the tight ends.
Yeah, and so I think that they were just kind of like, all right, we've got the running game down. We'll use it a little bit, but we're going to be more focused on throwing the football. And the result of that is Isaac Brown carries the ball 6 times, and Duke Watson only gets to carry it twice. I did like that we got him involved in the passing game, though, because both those guys, I think, are going to figure prominently in the passing game this season. It was nice to see them get off to a good start there.
They typically got somebody on them who can't stay with them. So
yeah, I mean it's EKU. Like
True.
You know what you're going to do there. But you're right. It's most teams. You're going to have a linebacker trying to cover one of those guys in open space. That's typically going to be a good matchup for us. Texas says, given that it was EKU, my biggest takeaway is just clean up the penalties. Hopefully it was just first game excitement and being a little too amped up. I'm more curious about if anyone in your and Dan's friend group thought he was ever fast, or even just a bit average based on the response I heard on the CC podcast. This has become the biggest thing in my friend group, is Danny on the podcast saying, you know, I was a fast guy growing up. And usually I just let him go until he's done talking. And I was like, you've never been fast. We played sports together from age like 12 through college intramurals. There's never been 1 second in my entire life where I've ever thought you were anything other than slow. And the result of all of this, I mean, we had buddies texting his old high school basketball teammates at Trinity asking if they thought he was fast. I'm texting random like friends on Friday night asking if nobody has said they ever thought Danny was fast. It's the one thing that has united this entire city. I've got randoms in my DMs who are like, I don't know Dan at all. I can tell you right now he's not fast just by listening to him. He's never been fast. But his whole thing, so his son is really fast. He's a really good athlete. And he said his wife always takes credit for it because she was a good athlete and she was notably fast. And he's like, I was a 4.7. He's like, they called me Mr. 4.7 in high school. I was like, ironically, they called you. I don't know if did you think that was genuine? But he's never been fast. It's the most ridiculous. I thought I was hearing things. It's ridiculous. It's like Roman saying he could throw 90 miles an hour.
Whoa.
You can't throw 90 miles an hour.
It's achievable, though.
It's not achievable.
Dan can never be fast again.
I don't think you could ever throw 90 miles an hour.
Don't say that.
I'm saying it.
Once I get on the mound, that's 20 miles an hour. I'd be up to 82 from there.
Extra 20 boost. Texas Lazard guy here. I've got a couple thoughts from Saturday. I love the offense looking sharp right away. I thought Miller's arm was better than advertised, and I'm buying all the stock on this defense. I don't care that it was EKU. They were organized, disciplined, and Lubin and Green are getting that type of pressure on anyone. They're quick off the ball, great bend, chef's kiss. There's a lot of fun things we can do with Clef Lubin's name, too. That's for later. That's for later. We can't ruin all of those great jokes in week one after EKU, but we'll get there. We'll get there. A.J. Green had a nice game as well, got in the backfield. It seems like we're going to start seeing more of this guy that was a big-time prospect coming out of high school a couple of years ago. Keith Wynn's been high on him for a long time, and it was nice to see him get some run and do some good things out there. Are you higher on the defense after Saturday or sort of where you were
still
before
TBD, Mike?
That's where I am, too. Need to see more, Ron.
Yep. There was, I didn't see anything I want to call bad until the starters were out, so it's really nothing I can gauge.
I love that the very next text is from Chris, a teacher, who just said, I've seen enough, Mike. This team is going 11-1 minimum with perhaps a narrow road loss to top 5 Miami as the only blemish. Miller Moss and Isaac Brown will be in New York as Heisman finalists. We make the CFP and we get to the semifinals or better. Stanquan Clark wins the Bednarik Award and saves a dozen puppies from a burning building. I love how he makes all these claims and then still just says we get to the semifinals. He just predicts us to win the whole thing at that point. We've got 2 Heisman finalists and a Bednarik Award winner who's saving dozens of puppies from burning buildings.
That's championship stuff.
But winning the national title is just a bridge too far. We got to stay realistic here. I did have the thought in the first half of the game Sunday night that Miami's going to be a problem for us just because they're so big and so physical. But man, if we can go into, let's get the goosebumps going. If we can handle our business in the first 5 games, we'll be 5-0. We'll be ranked somewhere in the top 20, probably. Miami, they've got a game against Florida, which I believe is at home in a couple of weeks. But besides that, there's no real – well, I take it back. They play at Florida State the week before us, and now that looks a lot tougher than it – Miami's going to have – they're going to have played 3 current top 15 teams in their first 5 games. They've got Bethune-Cookman this weekend. That should be a walkover. Hell, they've got South Florida on Saturday now who looks a lot tougher after blowing out Boise State, and they've got Florida at home, and they're at Florida State. If they win all of those games, Roman, if they're 5-0 with 3 top 15 wins – and a win over a South Florida team that might be ranked in a couple of weeks, they may be number 3, number 2 in the country. They're number 5 right now. And if we're 5-0, we'll be somewhere in the top 20. The hype for that game is going to be off the charts.
Yeah, be pretty big.
October 17th in Miami. I do hate the fact that you look at that schedule and you're like, ooh, maybe they've got a very emotional at Florida State game, the game before. Maybe they'll be still riding that high or feeling that low. Maybe they'll overlook us a little bit, but they've got a bye week before they play us, which is that's not great. Not ideal. No. But still, if we get 5-0 Miami versus 5-0 Louisville, that will be one of the more hyped regular season games in the history of this program, and that's the dream right now. Texas says Ron English should be fired for letting EKU score 17 points. 10 of those were on his backup defense, and 7 of those were on the offense. I don't give him credit for shutting out Austin Peay and Murray State the last 2 years, and I don't give him the blame for EKU scoring 17 points in this game.
Not on his mishaps.
Ron English starts to get judged this week. This is where, we're going to talk more about James Madison starting tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week, but this is a James Madison team that has won primarily with offense for the last few years. They hung 70 on North Carolina last season. They scored 45 in their season opener. Granted, it was against Weber State. They did play a little bit of both quarterbacks. The Barnett kid was the starter, and he played pretty well. Sluka came in and threw the ball 3 or 4 times. But they've got some dudes. They've got guys out there that if your defense is not doing the right things, which is something that we've seen from our defense off and on for the past couple of years, you could get embarrassed. I'm also seeing James Madison fans, get ready for this. They're kind of blaming the loss to us from a few years ago on Centeo, the quarterback, getting hurt in the middle of that game. He got when he went out, they were only down by a point, and then we kind of ran away from them in the second half. They're all like, we would have beaten you if Todd Centeo hadn't gotten hurt. So they're going into this game with a ton of confidence. I think we also need to remember James Madison is in a position much like the one that we were in consistently before we were a power conference team. They've got legitimate hopes of being a college football playoff team by being the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. And those hopes went up with Boise State losing last week. You look at their schedule, besides us, it's nobody who's going to move the needle. This is a game where even if they go 11-1 and win their conference, if they lose to us, they're probably not going to make the playoff. If they win this game and then win out, they've got a very good chance of making the playoff. They are going to put everything that they've got into this game Friday night. Their fan base is like, they are all ecstatic. Like, this is the biggest deal for them in a long time. So you're going to get a team that, if our guys aren't fired up because the name on the front of the jersey of the team that they're playing is not overly sexy, they got a chance to get smacked in the mouth. I'm just telling you right now. This James Madison team, they're not on our level. They shouldn't beat us, but they're absolutely good enough to beat us if we don't do the right things on Friday night. Texter says, what channel is the show going to be on the YouTube TV app? I believe we're on the Big X Sports YouTube, right?
Yeah, we're on the Big X Sports YouTube. I don't know. Holly can't find us on YouTube TV. I think we're just on like local broadcast TV.
Yeah, I think it's just
cable or satellite.
Channel 21. Texter says, Riddler here. What's up, Riddler? How many times have we been forced to watch a meaningless softball game between Boston College and Georgia Tech that are both sub 500 that is running into overtime against the start of one of our games? I don't care if the score is a 100-point blowout. How dare they take us off TV for Virginia Coastal Carolina? Well, look, they took the Pitt blowout off air to get the start of our game. It's going to keep happening until they stagger their start times appropriately. We're going to keep having games that get cut away from or get cut into. It's ridiculous. Just you have desk employees. Let them talk for 15 minutes after a game and then get ready for the next game. It's fine. They can do it. They're big boys and girls. They get paid money to do this. It's their job. Texas, hey, Mike and Roman, this is SPG Guy. What up, SPG Guy? Isaac Brown is an absolute stud. I'm now in the boat of wanting Brown to have a noticeable difference in touches between him, Duke Watson, and Keywan Brown. I also agree with your thoughts recently where you mentioned that with all the preseason awards, Isaac Brown's brilliance is still not talked about enough. I mean, the kid's special.
He is. Best player in the ACC, Mike.
I'm not going to argue with you right now. Duke Watson's really good, and we'll see more of that as time goes on. Isaac's different. There's no other way to say it. I really and truly think, and this is high praise, I get it, but I feel like at the end of the day, if he stays here for his junior season and then goes pro, we could talk about this guy being the best running back in Louisville football history. We've had some great ones, but as far as we haven't seen anybody with the combination of speed and shiftiness since, I think, Bilal Powell, who was a guy who ended up playing in the NFL for a decade. Javian Hawkins was super fast, but didn't have the size, didn't have the vision, and was also playing in a run-heavy offense. You don't have talents like this all the time, especially at places like Louisville. and we need to just fully soak up and enjoy every opportunity we get to watch this kid run the football because he's different. Please stay home. I'm already saying this after week 1, but please just stay here for one more year next year. Texture says we moved down in the AP poll, but Bama remains ranked after week 4. Do you see this, Roman?
No, I've been waiting for this.
So the polls came out today for week 2. We're not ranked still again, and we actually received fewer votes in the AP poll than we did last week. We're now, I believe, 5th in the also receiving votes. We were 4th last week. We're 2nd in the also receiving votes in the coaches poll, just behind Utah. But Georgia Tech jumped in front of us. USC jumped in front of us. Alabama is still nationally ranked at 0-1. The thing that bothers me more is that the computer rankings, the FPI, the S&P rankings, they all talked about how they're going to use strength of schedule more this year. Texas is still number 1 in their rankings.
Makes no sense.
And Alabama is still ranked in the top 10 while Florida State's unranked. At some point, the games have to matter in a sport like football where the sample size is limited to 12 or 13 games before you get to the postseason. It's absurd to not punish a team for actually losing a football game. Makes no sense whatsoever. We're going to go to break. The third hour is up next. We'll talk more with you on the Game Day Men's Health text line. Couple other things to discuss as well that we've not gotten to just yet, so keep it locked right here. It's the Mike Rutherford Show presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus. Coming back after this here on 1450 and 96.1 The Big X.
Hey, basketball fans, plan to pack the KFC Yum Center.
Back into hour number 3 of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus, Louisville's newest construction management company. I want to remind you guys, if you've been hurt in an accident or on the job, call Tony Collier and the crew over there at the Collier Law Firm. If you went to the game on Saturday, you probably saw their branding all over the place. They also are the proud sponsor of the Jeff Brom radio show, which is back tonight from 7 to 8 at the Roosters in Fern Creek. More importantly to you, The Collier Law Firm's got your back, not your wallet. If you've been hurt in an accident or on the job, call the Collier Law Firm today at 502-736-8141 or visit them online at collierlawfirm.com, COLYER lawfirm.com. You'll find out all about the ways in which they make sure that they can get you the most money for your recovery and that you keep the most money for your recovery, which includes starting their attorney fees at just 25%, not 40 or 45% like these big firms out there. CallYourLawFirm.com, 502-736-8141. Hurt in an accident, hurt on the job. Call your law firm. Roman, before we get back to the Game Day Men's Health text line, I may have had a breakthrough when it comes to getting John Rutherford into sports.
What happened?
So we went out to my parents on Sunday night to celebrate my birthday. Just a little quick dinner, little quick whatever. And John found all of my old sports action figures. I used to have, what was the brand that used to make those? They may still do it. Oh gosh. It's completely escaping me. Like anyways, starting lineup. I used to have all of these like football, baseball, basketball guys that I would just play with constantly, like early 90s, mid 90s. And my mom, I guess, kept most of them. She kept some of my wrestling guys too, but she sold most of those at a yard sale, which cost us like hundreds of dollars because I think those old wrestling guys, they go for like $500 a piece now. But she kept all my starting lineup, basketball, football, baseball guys. And John found the box and was like, "Can I play with these?" I was like, "Sure, buddy." And then he was like, "Can I take these home?" I was like, "Sure, buddy." And he's just been, for the last like 24 hours straight, setting them all up, putting the right helmets on the right guys, getting the baseball guys lined up, saying like this is one team and this is the other team, and it just appeals to my heart that we're making some headway.
Starting up now, Mike.
This may be I didn't know which way I've tried to make him watch games. I've tried to talk to him about like, cheering for the Cards and all this stuff. We've taken him to games. Nothing's done anything. The toy route may have been the best path forward this whole time. Feels good. Go ahead.
I'm sure that feels great. It's going to be a matter of time before he's going to be wanting to wear those jerseys and helmets himself.
I'm also like explaining like, hey, this is Jim Lomax. He sucked. I'm like, this is Warren Moon. He was good. Got into a little trouble off the field. A little creepiness going on there. Like this guy's definitely dead. This guy, I don't even know who this guy was. But the other thing that came up, and I don't know how other parents deal with this. I actually had a conversation with my friends about this. And I remember finding this out myself growing up. We have, I think it is Jim Lomax, who's like a Phoenix Cardinals player from the 90s, now the Arizona Cardinals. And they've got the Cardinals helmet, which looks a lot like a Louisville Cardinals helmet. And so John's like, hey, it's the Go Cards. And Virginia's like, yeah, that's a Go Cards helmet. And I'm trying to explain to them the difference between the NFL Cardinals and the college Cardinals. And it's just not registering at all. And my friends are like, dude, my kids are 9, 10 years old. It's still the most difficult thing. And I remember finding out firsthand because I cheered for the Phoenix Cardinals because I thought that it was like an extension of the Louisville Cardinals. And my dad was like, I remember my dad saying like, that's not the same as the Louisville Cardinals. And I think I said, I know, but in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, my whole life has been a sham up to this point. I have no idea what anything means anymore. It's a tough explanation to anybody, let alone a 5 or a 3-year-old kid, that this is a different world. But he did recognize Barry Sanders, the helmet. He's like, hey, Dad, look at this. I was like, yeah, Lions. That's my guy. So we're getting there. I was also gifted for my birthday from my mom. Lions yard inflatable, Roman.
What kind?
It's like a football lion mascot. Detroit.
That's nice.
Yeah. So
I was thinking like just a helmet or something.
No. It's like an actual lion. So I don't know when we're going to use this. Probably use it just like around playoff time. Hopefully, if we're in the mix again.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday it needs to go up?
Every Sunday.
Well, then I can't really justify not putting up the Louisville one every Saturday.
That's fair.
Yeah. Especially during Halloween. We're going to have the Halloween inflatables out there. There's also, I mentioned seeing like the flags flying around the houses with the various teams. And, we've got a Louisville flag now. We need to put it out there. We need to get a flagpole, first of all, or one of those holders. But there's a house across the street. There's like 3 Ole Miss fans that are all around me. And one of them across the street, they had the flag for the past month or so. And then on game day, I was walking Penny after we beat EKU. They had the giant Ole Miss inflatable helmet. And the guy just so happened to come outside as I was walking past his house. And I was like, hey, man, love the helmet. And he's like, hotty toddy. And I was like, I don't like the way you said that. But it was cool. But I don't know where all these Ole Miss fans came from that are now infiltrating the city of Louisville. But I hope for their sake that they're happy on Saturday when they play Kentucky.
They will be.
Here's hope. We thought that last year. Didn't turn out so well. Game Day Men's Health text line is 502-414-1450. Let's take a few more texts from you guys before we dive into some other stuff. Texter says, hey, Mike. Jody Demling posted this photo of Jaleel Skinner celebrating Lacey's return touchdown. Couldn't help but notice that corny EKU linebacker in the background looking absolutely baffled and sort of doing a WTF gesture. It's a great picture. Jaleel Skinner knew it was happening. Yeah, he's on the sideline. Rolling up the pants that far doesn't make you look cool, buddy.
That's great.
It's just, he had a rough day. But look, we love the good motivational tactics. I'm sure we'll get some more from James Madison this week. It'll be fun. And we'll keep bullying college kids until it stops working for us. Texter says, yes, Saturday's game also makes me feel the exact same way that I felt all offseason. It changed absolutely nothing. Let's go dominate on defense Friday, and then I'll feel better. Also, Nick Lodolo got scratched for tonight, and it'll be a bullpen game starting with Barlow. Hell of a Reds game yesterday, too. Welcome Sal and Novella. And Noelve stays clutch. I saw Lodolo got scratched. It's not ideal when you're in must-win scenario. We don't talk about the Reds on the show. It's done. I'm not buying back in. Great game yesterday. I'm so mad at them, Rowan. We don't talk about the Reds. I'm so mad at them for waiting until September 1st to call up Sal Stewart because apparently they got a compensatory pick for the 2027 draft by waiting until September 1st. That was the whole reason. Because you know what's going to happen. This kid's going to light it up. We're going to have a great month, and we're going to finish 2 or 3 games behind the Mets in the wild card race. And we're all going to say if they just called him up in August like everybody wanted him to, we'd be in the playoffs right now. But the Reds don't care about making the playoffs. They just care about what's good for business.
I don't understand that business model.
I don't either. Well, it's just, they don't want you want to spend as little money as possible while keeping your fans engaged. Which, judging from the attendance yesterday, they're not doing a great job because there's nobody at that game. Now, they're 4 games back, but the Mets are coming to town this week for a 3-game set. If they can, and the Mets are playing the Tigers, who are really good, but the Mets won yesterday. If the Reds can somehow find a way to get to within 3 games back for that Mets series, I'll get excited for those games. I'll watch them. But until then, there's 0.5% chance the Reds do this and make the playoffs, even with Sal Stewart up. And now Lodolo not pitching tonight doesn't help as well. Text says CFB here. It's Cards fan Brian in full effect. A Saturday was a great appetizer for the season to come. Just a couple things that I'd like to point out. One, I said I wasn't going to take much from this game, which I won't, but I must say the offense operating in such an efficient and business-like manner was extremely encouraging. Just need the defense to do its part. I'm looking squarely at you, Ron. 2, the schedule looks very manageable after week 1 of football being watched. Virginia Tech looked hapless on offense, so that game may be easier than initially thought, while Cal's QB looked awesome, so that game may be slightly harder. Overall, I'm not as nervous about JMU as I was previously, but I'd really like to see the team stay efficient and calculated on both sides of the ball. Go Cards. The James Madison spread opened up a couple of days ago at 15.5. It's now down to 14. I thought it was going to be 13.5, 14. Do we feel like that's an appropriate number for this game, Roman?
I think it is. I think it'll go up.
You mean back to 15.5?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think it'll stay at 14.5, 14, if I had to guess. And the computer models actually like JMU to cover. I saw Bill Connolly's has it as like a 12.5 point spread, and some of the other ones have it at 12, 13. So I think if it does anything, maybe it dips to 13.5, but I think 14 is probably going to be the number. And I think that's probably fair. It's week 2. Both teams played stinky opponents in week 1. What do we really know about either one of these teams? Not a ton. Texas, to me, maybe the most striking thing about the first weekend of college football was how unimpressive the supposed elite teams were. It seems like after week 1, it's a perfect year for us to play spoiler if we're good enough. Did you have the same takeaway, Rob? It's tough to say.
It is. I mean, what if Kyron Drones and that passing offense have it figured out by the time we play them? And we come in there and that defense is too much for us to handle.
Well, they're talking about the elite teams in all of college football, saying like nobody looks like they're overwhelmingly good.
I'm saying we might not get the chance to play that spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing, too, is that, could Ohio State, Texas have been a clash of two of the best defenses in college football history? Maybe. Could it have been two offenses that are just going to prove to not be good for the entirety of the season? That's also possible. I always think back to, what was it? It was like 9-10 years ago. And Texas and Notre Dame played this really hyped up, I think it was a Sunday night game the first week. And Notre Dame wins, and there's all this Notre Dame is back talk, and they vault into the top 10 of the national rankings, and they're like, Texas is still going to be fine. This was just a great college football game. And it turns out both teams stunk. Both teams were bad. Texas went 6-6. I think Notre Dame went 4-8 or something like that, and it was indicative of nothing. So you just never know until they end up playing actual games. And a lot of these teams that are ranked in the top 10 played nobodies. How good is Georgia? We don't know. How good is Penn State? We still don't know. Is LSU the real deal, or is Clemson just super average? We don't know. Well, I do. Clemson super average. But it's the great mystery of college football, and you don't find out the answers to these questions until you move forward. But it does kind of feel, looking at these week one results and then comparing them to the last couple of years with the portal and NIL, it does kind of seem like maybe the haves are having just a little bit less. They still are the haves for a reason, but maybe the dominance of programs like Alabama is taking a hit because of not being able to pay players illegally anymore. And now everybody having the ability to do it. It's certainly a common talking point. Texas says, we didn't win by enough, and we will lose at least 3, maybe 4 games if we don't clean up the penalties. The offense looked great for the most part. Isaac may be the fastest man in the world. I think that's pretty much the general takeaway. Offense looked good. Isaac's incredible. Penalties got to get cleaned up. Texas says, Texas Mike, please elaborate on what you meant by your text in regards to Miller Moss sleeping with the female relatives of the announcing crew. I was at the game, so I didn't get to hear the commentators. We talked about this, I think, after you sent your text in. They just felt like they were overly hard on him. They were very critical of everything that he did, and he played a pretty damn good game, I thought. Text says, Mike, my wife came to me terrified all day on Sunday. She kept freaking out, saying that there was a monster in the house and that it was sneaking up on her and moved at blinding speeds. I looked around and told her, honey, you need to relax. That's just Clev Lubin. I like that. It was one of those moments where the first time he had the sack, you're like, oh. But then you're like, all right, it's Eastern Kentucky. Let's call it. And then he does the same thing again. And you're like, all right. The things that he did to make that sack, they have nothing to do with Eastern Kentucky. Being that quick off the ball and being able to have that swim move that he did without any sort of, like misstep, the footwork, all that stuff, like that's going to be beneficial in any game against any opponent with any right or left tackle lined up against you. I'm super excited to see what he does the rest of this year. I thought that was remarkably impressive. Text says Lubin on defense was fun. First text into the show. What's the noise? Oh, the cowboy. You got to get that set up.
Oh, I do.
Cowboy. Boney Dumper has texted in. Sorry to our TV listeners. In case you're watching this for the first time, you're like, Boney Dumper. Isaac Brown gives me that feeling that I haven't had since Lamar Jackson was here. That feeling where every time he touches the ball, I hold my breath because I'm expecting something nuts. If you listen to Paul Rogers, it sounded so similar to the Lamar days where you can hear the excitement in his voice every time Brown touches the ball. I do feel like he's the most exciting player we've had since Lamar.
Definitely.
I mean, Malik was exciting. Malik Cunningham. Javian Hawkins was exciting. This is a different level, though.
Damari Thrash excited me.
Sure. I mean, you could say Tyler Shuck was exciting last year. Ja'Cory Brooks was exciting. This is a different level in that you feel like he could do something that you've rarely seen in your life as a sports fan every time he touches the ball. And that's more and more difficult, I think, to do in 2025 when,
as a running back.
well, I mean, every game is on TV and the highlight, even if a game's not on TV, someone's taking video. Like if somebody at the high school level does something absolutely insane, there's a 100% chance you're going to see it on YouTube that same day.
Yeah.
And it just,
Maybe ESPN.
nothing shocks anymore. And I feel like he has the ability to shock you in all of the most positive ways. Save that clip. Just like Lamar Jackson did back in the day. And that's just abnormal. It's atypical. And I know, look, obviously Notre Dame was playing against a much stronger level of competition, but Jeremiah Love's supposed to be the unquestioned number one running back in the country. He was fine, but 10 carries for 35 yards or something like that against Miami? I feel like when we play Miami, and maybe this comes back and bites me in the you-know-what, I feel like Isaac Brown's going to have better numbers than 10 carries for 35 yards. Also, someone needs to tell Jeremiah Love to stop jumping over people. You don't need to do it on every play.
He loves it.
Every play, he does it, though. Like there's like 5 guys waiting to tackle him, and he's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump him. Hurdle. I think I can do it. I think I can jump him. And then it just goes poorly for him. But I mean, we've seen Jeremiah Love for the last 2 years. He's very good, but I would take – I mean, is there any running back in college football that you would trade Isaac Brown for right now?
No. I think the upside with the speed, Mike, no.
I'm not trading Isaac Brown for anybody. Texas says, podcast random thoughts guy here. Mike Trevor, I can't say that, bleeped himself and fell back in his chair again when you said Brian Brown's defense is pretty good on Friday. Did I say that? I was talking about Cincinnati because they just played the night before.
Yeah.
Brian Brown has moments here. Moss played okay, but there were a couple of throws at least where he didn't do his receivers any favors, as Keith mentioned. The Lacey big hit was behind him, and the next play with Bell was also behind, and his leg got twisted up. Very happy Rodney got up. That would have been a crucial injury. Yeah, Rodney Johnson got dinged up there at corner, but did get up. I mean,
I feel like Colin got hit a few times.
Colin did, and the PRTG's right. It was avoidable a couple of times that he got lit up. If the ball was thrown properly, he wouldn't have gotten hit. Maybe there's a difference between getting timing down in practice and getting timing down in a game. Maybe that's all this is. Maybe this is just real live reps that actually matter, where Miller Moss isn't hitting Chris Bell and Colin Lacey in stride because they've never done this before. I think that has to be the hope, because there were a couple of times. Like the deep pass to Lacey that went for 33 yards or whatever could have easily been a touchdown.
Yeah.
If the ball's thrown more in a line or thrown more in stride. It was neither of those. It was still a nice play. And it's not the worst pass in the world, but he did take a big hit because of that. And look, Lacey's not the biggest guy in the world. We need him to be healthy. Let's do what we can to lead him in the right direction. Also, are we rethinking our Colin Lacey shouldn't return kicks and punts take?
No.
You're not. You're still standing by it.
No. We know we can do it. We know what we've got back there. Save it for close games or the big games, Mike.
I'm rethinking it after the punt return. I mean, that was electric. And Bobby Golden did have a punt return that was good later in the game.
So did Kewan Brown.
Kewan Brown had a good return.
With a kick return, but still.
If he gives us that much of a potential way to steal 7 points on a game-to-game basis, I think you take the risk.
I think you save it for when you need it.
I've changed. I'm sticking with the coaches now. I'm going with the coaches. Get him back there. Just tell him every game's not going to be EKU. You're not going to get a bunch of line drive punts against a bunch of FCS special teams guys. If it's at all close, you wave that hand, you fair catch that bad boy, and you stay safe. Roman Hater says, I don't even know who this is for. Get this IU football ad off the station. Kurt Signetti is a fraudulent coward. There's a problem with this. There's a problem with this, Roman Hater. We are the home of Indiana football, so we kind of have to have the ads here. They didn't look great over the weekend.
Thought they should look better.
Old Dominion, I think it was 34-17, something like that. They gave up a touchdown on Old Dominion's first play. They can't handle the Monarchs. Roman. Not sure how Scoots is handling that, but I'm sure he's fired. Scoots said he got fired up on his show this morning.
I didn't listen today.
I didn't either. I may have to listen to the podcast because he said in his tweet, sharing the podcast, that he got fired up at one point. Never forget that just 2 years ago, Scoots on my show said he didn't really care about Indiana football that much. Said he wasn't really that big of a fan. So he didn't pay attention. I wonder what's changed between then and now. Texture says, Mike, important news. I had eyes on Miller's Angels on Saturday. Okay. We've definitely got a Stacy's mom situation. Also, Mick Cronin sucks. Okay, so the Angels were in attendance. This is what we needed from the text line. Text line's doing, we give them an assignment, Roman, they always step up.
They'll get the job done.
Did you have eyes on Miller's Angels?
I did not.
His mom's going to war on Twitter already.
Saw Spencer Legg and Casey Pryor. Got to say what's up to them.
Nice. We love those guys. But yeah, Miller Moss's mom, somebody was saying, it was a USC fan who was kind of talking trash, like 2 interceptions, and she was coming back with the Pro Football Focus numbers. She's not standing by it. She's not taking it.
That's kind of cool.
We got to get the Angels on. We got to get them in studio. Texture says, it may have just been me, but I was pleasantly surprised by how well and hard the defense hit. Seemed like I heard louder pops through the broadcast this game. I thought the same thing too. The defense was bringing, every time we say anything, it comes with the understanding that it's EKU, all that good stuff. But still, it felt like our guys were flying around, and they were out there to do some damage, and that's a good thing. That's what you want on the defensive side of the ball. I thought that there was a lot of big thwacks out there.
What do you think of the Chris Bell flag?
I mean,
when I rewatched it a couple times, the more I look at it, he had to have said something. He didn't physically do anything to warrant that.
He
that
did,
flag.
though. He dipped his shoulder into him and hit him. Like, that's people keep saying he didn't, like, he did. He thought he got tackled out of bounds.
Which he did.
He went out of his way, though, to put his head down and kind of head and shoulder butt that kid. It wasn't a big thing. You could have easily not thrown the flag there. But you go, I mean, we talked about this on the show, Chris, on Friday. We know you listen. He's the biggest Mike Rutherford show fan in the city of Louisville. And Keith comes on and he says there are 2 defensive players for Eastern Kentucky that are out there to try to get in fights. And I said, are you listening, Chris? You've come a long way. Let's not take a step backward on Saturday. And he couldn't help himself. He got hit out of bounds. The guy probably said something to him. And Chris Bell, it's always the guy who reacts. He's the guy who reacted, and he got flagged for it.
It was as he was handing the football to the referee.
It was. It could have easily not been called. Whether he said something or not, though, he definitely dipped the shoulder, dipped the head, and purposely leaned into the kid. Could have, I think in a bigger game, you let this go. The refs also did seem like they, there was, I'm not saying, there were a handful of penalties, though, against us that you saw and you were like, technically, yeah, but a lot of officials would let that go. Now, there were some that were blatant. I thought most of the holding calls that they showed on replay, you were like, all right, yeah, that's you got to throw that. But there were a couple, including that one, where I was like, I don't know if they call that in week 5. A lot of times officials they're flag happy in week 1, especially when it comes to personal foul stuff.
I thought, for the most part, they were all really right. Yeah, a couple soft calls, but that's expected early in the season.
Get it out of your system now, Chris. Texture says, I will volunteer as clock management coach. I mean, I think that in all seriousness, I think Greg Brom is supposed to be, like he helps out in this department. Brady probably plays more video games. I don't know if we're legally allowed to put Brady Brom in charge of something like this, but let's just make Brady Brom our clock expert. He knows when to take time out. The kid's played video games his whole life, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
He's 21 years old or 20 years old, however old he is. Let's put him in charge of this. Just, hey, Dad, time out. This is when you take it. Hey, Dad, spike the ball. Hey, Dad, let's get into field goal range. Hey, Dad, let's not run here. Like, he can do that. Just one series a game. End of the first half and then end of the second half if needed. Texas says, I know that Mike was taking a victory lap on Saturday when, oh, come on, Tex Groove, when everyone was realizing in real time that Cade Klubnik isn't amazing. I mean, we give takes here every single day. And I would say most of the time, it's something that I genuinely believe, but I'm not 100% about it. You know,
Not when you're not 100%.
yeah, I mean, I'll let you know. Like, this is what I think, but I could easily be wrong about this. The Klubnik and Clemson thing all offseason, it made me doubt my sanity a little bit because, I watched a lot of Clemson football, and the first thing that I said when I got this job, when this show started in 2021, was Clemson's done. Competing for national titles, they're done. They'll be a 9-3, 10-2, 8-4 type team from now until the end of time or whenever they get rid of Dabo. And I stand by that. And then Cade Klubnik the last couple of years, I'm like, he's fine. He's not great. He's fine. And this entire offseason, for seemingly no reason, everybody is just like Clemson number 1, number 2.
Best team in college football.
Cade Klubnik's the best quarterback in the country, and there's no argument whatsoever. And it was am I insane? Because usually if everybody else is saying something and you're wondering, am I insane or is everybody else insane? Usually it's you. I wasn't crazy this whole time. All of y'all were crazy. And all of y'all were wrong. And I felt very strongly about it. I gave this take the entire summer, and it was like I'm 99.999 repeating sure that I'm right about this. And to have that validation in week 1, it felt good. They'll go out there. They'll be fine. They'll win a bunch of games. They're not a realistic threat for the national title. Cade Klubnik's not the best quarterback in America. We're back with the final segment of the day after this. Keep it locked right here. 1450 96.1 Big X Sports. of the Tuesday edition of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical and Nexus Plus, 1450, 96.1 Big X Sports Radio, also WBNH Channel 21. A couple people saying they're having trouble finding it. I believe, Roman, so we're 21.2.
On antenna. And
on
then
antenna.
You've got cable, which I don't even really know what that means anymore. It's channel 185.
You're about to know because everyone's going to go back to cable now because YouTube TV, like Clemson, done. It's done. It's done. No one's using YouTube TV anymore. Yeah, they are, but people are mad about some of the subscription costs. It's okay. Final segment of the day here, though, celebrating a Louisville victory over EKU. It just feels good to be back here. I know it's not the typical Monday celebration, but hopefully this is a sign of things to come for the next 12 weeks, where we're back here celebrating victories, talking about the rest of college football, breaking down the pros and the cons, but mostly just feeling very happy and fortunate that our team is still unbeaten at this point in the season. It feels good to be back here doing this.
What's most important?
Did Delton do a show yesterday?
No shows yesterday.
So we have standard operating procedure after our show today.
Yes, sir.
I do want to remind you guys, though, we do have a day early this week, Jeff Brom radio show. Tonight from 7 to 8, he'll be live at the Roosters in Fern Creek and also live on our sister station, 970 WGTK. Jeff Brom giving his thoughts on the Week 1 victory over EKU and the short week and the look ahead to James Madison on Friday night, where Louisville is a 14-point favorite. Roman, how did your Big X Big Bets do over the weekend?
We went 4-0 on Friday, Mike.
Look at you.
Capped out a 40-23 August.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
You're rolling in it.
Feeling good. They're asking me to do a betting show now on TV.
One good month, and that's how it works, baby. Let's go.
I'll start a show, and then it's like I won't hit a bet to save my life.
I felt very good about my plays on the ones that we did on Friday. And Scoots was all upset. Like, I forgot. I didn't realize the games were tonight. But I gave you the under on Michigan State team total, the under on Georgia Tech Colorado game overall, which got a little dicey at the end, but still, it hit. And then missed on Texas Ohio State, but did give you winners, the outright moneyline plays on both Miami and LSU there, which I felt good about. Again, pick'em segment, 9-1 week for myself, 8-2 week for Roman. We're red hot to start this year. How did our Atherton Ravens soccer team do? You don't even know.
Didn't do great the last time I called a game. They played after that, though, on the road. They have Trinity this week, though, Mike. Thursday. That's the home game.
Oh, we need to do our show from there.
We can. Let's go do it.
TV and radio live from Trinity versus Atherton soccer. We got about 25 minutes left here on the show today. If you want to have your thoughts heard on the Week 1 performance, 502-414-1450 is the Game Day men's health text line. We still have a lot of text to get through, so we're going to try to run through these bad boys as quickly as we can to make sure that everyone has their thoughts heard on the radio. It's the start of the season. You've got thoughts. We want to hear them. Texter says, Brady Allen's interception is disqualifying for a Division I quarterback. The read was completely unacceptable, and he should never see the field again. Seriously, an awful decision and a throw. I mean,
It was bad.
I'm not going to say he should never see the field again. It was a bad decision, and I stand by my earlier statement that Deuce is QB2. Deuce is the guy. Chris the Plumber's texted in. Chris says, I'm hearing some Cutter rumblings from Cat fans. It's really too bad Mike doesn't do open phone lines on the show. My accent is 100% authentic hillbilly. I could fill that void talking Cutter. Roman?
We can't let you do that, Chris.
Do you have anything to say on this front?
Can't let you do that, Chris. But I don't know about that Calzada, Mike.
Sounds Italian. He certainly ain't from here. You know Cutter Bully. You know he's a local boy.
Something about his throwing mechanics. I didn't like it. Put Cutter in. See what he can do.
Cutter's bred for this.
He'll be in by week 3.
I'd play him against Ole Miss. You think they know anything down there in the well? It's games and Lexington this week. I've ruined my entire spiel. We got a whole year of this. We can't just blow it right now.
It's only a matter of time.
It's all we have Cutter material to go on for the next 10 months, 10 weeks. We gotta save some. Text that our D line looks so much bigger this year than the past 5 years. I love Tell and Puryear, but the undersized Satterfield D linemen have finally been phased out of the program. We've recruited more size in the trenches in both the portal and traditional recruiting the last couple of years. I think it's finally starting to show a little bit. Like you said, Ramon Puryear was a great player here, and by the way, just signed a contract to play in the CFL. Some of these other guys.
To him.
Say what?
Congrats to him.
Congrats to him. But we need some hosses in the trenches there. We've been noticeably, I think, undersized, and the lack of depth has hurt us on both the offensive and defensive lines at times over the last couple of years when we've got deeper into the season. And while that problem hasn't been completely rectified, it does seem to have been addressed. And we seem like we got some bigger guys. Texas, I listened to some of the UK post-game show on Saturday, and the gotta put Cutter in bit that you all do is spot on. The callers on the show were filling diapers. This is Wiener Dog Guy, by the way. Yeah, I mean, you know who hosts one of the big call-in shows for UK now is our guy TJ Walker. He does the call-in shows with our partners over there at ESPN Louisville. He's doing post-game cats. I mean, we need to get him. We need to have him. We need to call TJ after a UK game and just do the Cutter voice and see if he can recognize that it's one of us.
I think we can make that happen.
I
have a couple buddies who it's natural in them that they could definitely make it happen.
It's Mike from LaRue County on line 1 here.
Just got a buddy named Jerry. This is Jerry. What about Cutter?
I want to start off by saying this. I'm a big fan. I knew Cutter's daddy, so I might be a little biased, but I still know football. Texas, howdy, Mike. Parksy boy here. I agree that Deuce is QB2. I think he looked more poised than Brady Allen did. The ball jumps out of his hands, and I love that we got to see a glimpse of his athleticism on a designed run. I think Jeff tends to be loyal almost to a fault, but it looked clear to me that Deuce has to be the next man up when Miller's off the field. That's my take as well. I think you'll see more of that as the season goes on. STL Cody guy says, did either one of you all get to watch any of the Underwood kid from Michigan? He looks special. I know he didn't have a crazy good game, but he just looks different.
Buddy, I was told the same things, but I didn't see any of the highlights.
I didn't either. They played New Mexico. It seemed like kind of
looked close for a long time to score it.
It did, and I think it was I think it ended up being 34-17.
My buddy told me he looked good. I didn't watch that.
I've got a friend who is adamant that everybody's sleeping on Michigan. That they're like we're undervaluing the boys from Ann Arbor. I think the opposite. They've got a pretty manageable Big Ten schedule.
They're cheaters,
and they're cheaters. I feel like it's 8-4, 9-3 for Michigan this year. Texas, my big takeaways from week 1. 1, the arch talk is just for ratings. 2, LSU isn't that good. Clemson is just that bad. 3, Alabama may not go 6-6. 4, Louisville didn't care for that game, and we didn't really see or learn anything from it.
I agree with all of these.
There may be a little bit of overreactions on all those.
Except I think LSU is serious.
I don't think LSU is going to finish top 2 in the SEC. Maybe not top 3. I think Clemson's just like good but not great.
Yeah,
that's where I am. Texter says Tulane was the home team, and the home team wears dark. Northwestern didn't want to wear dark jerseys on the road. Okay, that's what it was. My apologies. Whatever it was, they said no, and they got thumped. Disrespect. Come on. It's just such an easy thing to accommodate, you know? Like, who cares?
It's not hard.
It's Hurricane Katrina. We all know how much Tulane, the city of New Orleans, was affected. If they want to wear whatever they want to wear, just say yes. It's a simple thing not to screw up.
Oh, yeah, it was the anniversary, wasn't it?
Yeah. Roman not listening to the show again. It's okay. Texas, what are your thoughts on the bye week after the JMU game? As a fan, it feels kind of anticlimactic that within 6 days we get going. We're already taking a week off, but I think overall, if we take care of business on Friday, it's almost like an exhibition season where we get things to work on and treat the rest of the way like a 10-game season. Going from the bye week to Bowling Green gives us a winnable game to implement improvements without any rust before going into the conference schedule. Yeah, I mean, I don't like it, to be honest. We had the same thing last year. We played Austin Peay and then Jacksonville State, and then it was a bye week. Now, at least the bye week was before Georgia Tech, I believe, was the week 3 game.
It was.
But this stinks, having these 2 games. It stinks regardless. But if the unthinkable were to happen and we were to actually lose, that would be a long ass 2-week wait to get ready for the Bowling Green game. So let's take care of business on Friday. Let's look good in the process, and then let's sit back and enjoy the rest of the country doing their thing before we really get going. But I know Jeff Brom. I mean, he talked openly about really disliking where the bye weeks were last year. I would assume that next week we're going to hear something similar about him not loving the bye. I mean, he said last year he didn't like bye weeks, period. He just wants to go. He's such a creature of habit. When the ball gets rolling, I think he just wants to be in it. And having to play 2 games quickly and then having to pull right out and having a full 15 days off, I think is not ideal. And that's where we are, though. You can't control that part of the schedule. They make those for you. What do you make of Brom? I thought it was kind of interesting. He got asked a question after the game on Saturday about not wanting to show your hand a little bit, wanting to play some stuff on offense close to the vest. And he basically said, that was the game plan. We wanted to be pretty vanilla on offense. I was, I guess maybe a little bit surprised that he was just willing to answer the question. But it did seem like we were able to get through Saturday's game without having to really show anything other than, the same 5-6 basic sets and plays.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't get in any position. I mean, the third 19 was tough, but we were never in a position where he had to go all out for anything, I think. There was the Colin Lacey, the jet sweep. I mean, he was trying to incorporate everybody into the pass game, and I'm not mad at that. I think that he showed a lot of plays, but they were all basic plays. So I'm not mad at it. He got everybody involved, showed all the receivers kind of what it's going to look like for him, got Miller Moss to kind of be able to gain that in-game connection with some of these receivers. So a lot of passes. I would have kind of wanted to see more runs, maybe just a couple more designed.
You're on TV. Are you still allowed to say boner? We just did. There you go. We'll find out. We'll find out pretty quickly, I guess. Texas says, political scientist here. Text group's firing up. Can you read the rest of that? Oh, no, here it is. I've recently moved and live a few minutes from LaRue County High School. If there's a Mike Rutherford show sign, I would be willing to plant it on their field for psychological warfare.
I could make that happen.
They lost last week.
Print off that picture from the website.
If you follow me on Twitter, you know that they lost last week. I would love for this to happen. LaRue County needs to become Mike Rutherford show territory. We need to just take this over. You made a mistake, LaRue County AD. Made a big one. People don't forget. Little Dumper has texted in. Once again, apologies to our TV viewers who have no idea what's going on. To be fair to Danny, he was supposed to guard Rondo, so the coach thought he was fast-ish. Now his nickname is Dumpster Dan, and that's not a nickname of a fast guy. Okay, well, he did. The thing is, the story, he did guard Rondo for 3 plays. Rondo dunked 3 times, and then moved to his own. And that was only because Chris McCoy, who was All-State, was out for the game. So it went exactly like I thought it was going to go with Danny Snard guarding Rajon Rondo in high school. Texas Kentucky fans are drinking the Kool-Aid that they can win games without having to pass the ball. In their defense, they kind of did that a few times when they had, those. Who was the kid who ran all over us, who played quarterback but wasn't really a quarterback, who punched the kid from Virginia Tech? What was his name?
Yeah.
He ended up not doing anything in the NFL.
I was just talking about him last week.
He's not even important enough to remember. But they had that offense, and they won some games playing that way. So some of their best offenses have been guys that don't really throw the ball. Texture says, what is going on? Speaking of Louisville volleyball, did you see Katie George is getting canceled for accidentally, what does it say? I can't, text lines. For accidentally calling Coco Gauff as Simone. Nobody told her that all black people don't look alike. I didn't see this.
I didn't see this either.
That's not good. Katie's a pro. I'm sure that was an honest mistake. But yeah, that's not a great mistake to make. Coco Gauff, I believe, is in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open now.
Yeah, beat Coco. No, Naomi beat Coco.
Oh, she lost.
Yeah.
I did not see that. I paid a little bit of attention to the men's side. Rough tournament for the Americans, although Ben Shelton is playing, I think, Djokovic today. And he's 0-10 against him lifetime. Probably not going to go great. Texture says, sorry if you covered this. Clev Lubin had a terrible game against JMU last year when Coastal got blasted. Had one solo tackle and no sacks. Is that concerning? No. I mean, I think it's totally different. You know, he talked about, Clev Lubin did, after the game, about how nice it is having so many guys on that defensive line that you know are there to make plays. He talked about playing alongside Jordan Gerard and Renee Conga and just saying, you know, those guys are so talented. You know, if you force the quarterback up in the pocket, that they're going to be there to blast it. I think he's going to have a totally different experience playing on this defensive line where maybe he's the best player, but you've also got some legitimate big-time Power 4 conference players as well than he had last year at Coastal Carolina, where teams, they knew if they just avoided him, they were probably going to be in pretty good shape on that defensive line. You can't just run away from Clev Lubin this year because we've got guys all over the field that can make plays, and I think that he's going to benefit from being able to know that it doesn't have to be all me. If I flush a guy out of his running lane, someone else is going to be there to make the play. Texas says, I think Isaac Brown looks faster wearing number 1. Am I crazy?
Does look faster.
He kind of does. Did it take you a while to adjust on Saturday?
A bit.
It took me a second to adjust.
Because on the long run, Mike, and it's a great, you pointed it out earlier, and it was a great example of what you pointed out, how he makes a cut, but he also gets grabbed. He loses his direct balance of going forward and is still able to immediately get his footing, and it's as soon as both feet are flat on the ground, he's the fastest player on the field. It's unreal speed. Before the pocket even fully opens up for him, he's gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's getting faster. He does look quicker. He looks like he's getting to his top speed faster. We obviously have no way to know if the top speed is any faster at all, but that quickness looks even quicker.
There was, early on in the game, you know, I guess I recognized it early, but then there were a couple of plays in the second quarter where I still hadn't fully processed that, and I was like, who is that? He looks incredible. I was like, oh, yeah, it's Isaac. It's going to take a while. I think I've got it down now, though. Texas, for the love of God, can we stop blasting music while the offense is on the field? This does need to stop. We need, it needs to be as quiet as it can possibly be while we've got the ball. We don't need the music. We don't need our fans cheering or going nuts. We need to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that our offense is communicating, especially with how convoluted our offense is. We have a lot of checks. There's a lot of stuff coming from the sidelines. We need to give the offense every possible advantage it can have, and part of that is let's cut the music off when we got the ball. Texture says, here's how I feel. Overall, I see a team that's about the same. Okay. Texas loading.
Overall, I see a team that's about the same as last year. I don't see overwhelming talent, but we have an offense that can score on anyone. 1, the offense is going to be more efficient than last season with even more explosive run game.
Okay.
2, Miller Moss doesn't have the ability to change the game with one throw like Shuck. Also, I don't think we'll have the same deep threat like Thrash and Brooks were. More methodical drives, penalties setting us behind the chains could be costly. Clean that up. 3, the defense and offensive line, I don't really know if we can tell anything. They didn't look bad is the positive. We'll be able to see more on Friday. My opinion on the schedule isn't changing other than Miami looks a lot tougher. FSU being good does matter because they're competition for an ACC title game and playoff bid.
Sure. It's a bad year for – I mean, this is why we always talk about going into the preseason. It's impossible to diagnose if you've got a really tough ACC schedule or a really easy ACC schedule. Last year it was, Louisville got the easiest ACC schedule they could possibly have. There's no Florida State. There's no North Carolina. There's no, all the teams that we were supposed to have gotten lucky by missing stunk. And then this year it's like you'd love to play Florida State this year. You'd love to play. And maybe FSU is going to be really good. Maybe SMU is not going to be nearly as good as they were last year. Maybe Miami, the bottom will fall out and they won't have the type of season that they are expected. We just don't know. And that's what it comes down to. We just don't know. I feel like Miami's going to be like I thought they were very impressive against Notre Dame. Clemson is not trying to chest thump again, but they're kind of what I thought they were going to look like after week one. They'll still be a very tough game for sure. I think VT's defense could maybe be a problem for us, and if they figure some stuff out on offense between now and November 1st, which is a long time away, that could be a tough game. Cal's freshman quarterback looked great, but it's week one. We still have a longer way to go. We'll figure it out. Texas says, could Isaac Brown actually be faster than Danny? Yeah. Texas Mike, any word on the basketball recruiting visit? I mean, it sounded like it went well. Yeah. I mean, the report that comes after a visit is always, hey, like, he liked it. You very rarely have I think there's been one that I can remember where it's like, the kid just hated it here. You know, like, didn't like any of the special treatment, didn't like any of the things that took place. But Colvin Landrew said his visit was amazing. I think there's a high probability that we end up landing this kid. I think he wants to come here. I think the staff really likes what he brings to the table. I think they feel like he's going to be a multi-year player. And Pat Kelsey wants to start building a foundation where he can have some more roster retention on a year-to-year basis. And in order to do that, you've got to bring in more freshmen. And I think that he's that perfect type of player for that. A guy who could play a role as a freshman, steadily improve over his next 2 or 3 years, and become a really good college player. I would love to see him in Cardinal Red. It sounded like the visit went well over the weekend. Texture says, in regarding to Scoops getting amped up, there was a dumb UK fan roasting Scoots for picking Toledo to beat UK and was taking a victory lap for the Cats' win. Scoots honed in on it and the texture pretty well. Yeah, he said he did text me and say that was about it. It was nothing Indiana related. Said he put him in his place. Good. Says, Mike, man, you're screening my text now. No, I just didn't see this. If Meskey's on the show, can you ask him about the lineup changes in the third match, whether we can still count on Blackshear and Cabello as starters, and also how about how he views the OH position on this team next year, or maybe just ask him about next year's team when you finally get him on in May. He's big time in May. Chris Palmer says, you know what they say about them Italians. I don't. I don't know. Isn't that they're super? We found out last year that they're super superstitious, right? Yeah, that was the big thing. Texas 21.2 is showing Gilmore Girls. Any other options to watch? My dad said he found it on 21.4. 21.4. That's what I thought, but they told me 21.2 today. 21.4 apparently is where we are. I didn't realize you had that many options. We're your fourth best option on cable TV, which is about right for the show, honestly. Texas, call me crazy, but I would love to see a Deuce Isaac RPO package that Brom can throw in randomly in a big-time game to throw defenses completely off guard.
He had them both out there for a lot of snaps.
I was thinking about this. You know, last year, there was so much talk about there being a built-in package for Pierce Clarkson, where short yardage situations, we can bring in Pierce Clarkson. Maybe if we're, second and goal from the 5, you could bring him in, be a dual threat guy. And the reality was, Pierce Clarkson, I don't think was ready to play at this level, and I don't think he was as fast I think Deuce Adams is faster than Pierce Clarkson. I think Deuce Adams is a better passer than Pierce Clarkson, and he's a little bit bigger than Pierce Clarkson. I would be totally fine if they trust him enough to have a short yardage package with Deuce back there where you can use him. I mean, Miller also looked pretty fast on his touchdown run.
He did. He looked quick. We talked about that last night.
He can move a little bit. You might be able to get him with the okey doke the same way that you got Tyler Shuck last year. Everybody starts honing in on that zone read, that zone run to Isaac Brown. Maybe you don't let Miller keep it the first couple of weeks, and then against Pitt or something, they're all overloading the line in one direction, and Miller keeps it, and there's nobody on the other side of the field. He rumbles for 30, 40 yards. I would not be surprised at all if Jeff Brom has that in his back pocket at some point. But I wouldn't hate, again, if they trust him enough to not make a big mistake, I wouldn't hate seeing Deuce Adams. All right, we're out of here. I thought we had till 27. Sorry. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 3:30, 2:30. Go Cards.
Plumbing and refrigeration.